Einen sonnigen guten Morgen nach Deutschland. Herzlich willkommen aus Spanien, besser gesagt aus Barcelona. GT World Challenge Europe powered bei AWS, das große Saisonfinale an diesem Wochenende. Ja, der Endurance Cup steht auf dem Programm und damit grande Finale hier in Spanien bei wirklich tollem Wetter, knapp 20 Grad. Und Sie sehen die ersten Live-Bilder von dem Circuit Barcelona, Catalunya. Ein bisschen ist es bedeckt, aber wir haben natürlich 16 Grad auf der Strecke. Aber es ist 9 Uhr morgens. Angesagt ist heute 24 Grad und Sonne. Und glauben Sie mir, wir freuen uns tierisch an diesem Wochenende auf das Finale des Endurance Cups. Und vor allen Dingen, ein neuer Rekord ist angebrochen, denn insgesamt starten bei der GT World Challenge 60 Autos. Hat es noch nie gegeben. Man war mal mit 2021 mit 54 Autos. Ja, und das ist schon mal die Herrlichkeit der GT3 Autos, der Rotronic Porsche. Und damit auch einen wunderschönen, guten, lieben Morgen, lieber Sebastian. Unser letztes Wochenende hier in Spanien.
Ja, vielen lieben Dank. Auch von mir einen herzlichen Willkommensgruß an Sie zu Hause. Und das ist angesprochen. Es ist ein Jahr der Rekorde. Egal, wo man hingeschaut hat, immer wieder gab es dann diese Meldung an diesem Wochenende. Die meisten Teilnehmer, die es jemals beispielsweise jetzt hier in Barcelona gegeben hat. Wir sind gespannt, was das Ganze dann für das Rennen bedeuten wird, denn es wird natürlich immer voller werden auf der Strecke. Die Strecke 4,6 Kilometer lang, 60 Fahrzeuge, die sich dann dort bewegen werden, heißt im Umkehrschluss weniger als 100 Meter findet sich jeweils ein Auto auf der Strecke wieder. So beispielsweise auch der Almanar Racing BMW mit der 777, Jens Klingmann, Benthack und Al-Faisal Al-Zubair, die drei Piloten, die ja gemeinsam im Gold Cup an den Start gehen. Und da sind wir dann schon bei dem Thema. Wir haben ja 4 verschiedene Wertungen. Ja. Die Overall-Wertung mit der Pro-Kategorie.
Wir haben den Gold, den Silber und den Bronze Cup. Alles ist noch im Grunde offen an diesem Wochenende. Und es ist das 7. Mal, dass wir in Barcelona das Saisonfinale feiern. 3-mal waren wir mit dem Sprint Cup hier in Spanien. Letztes Jahr, Saisonfinale, war 6-Stunden-Rennen in Jeddah in Saudi-Arabien. Steht dann auch im nächsten Jahr nicht mehr auf dem Kalender. Und es steht jetzt an, 2 Stunden freies Training. Das Abtasten untereinander, gucken, was geht. Vor allen Dingen hat man auch nochmal die BOP nach den Daten von gestern und Donnerstag noch mal ein bisschen angepasst, aber nicht allzu groß. Nämlich genau dieses Auto hier, die BMW-Mannschaft, die GT3s, die haben noch mal 10 Kilo draufgekriegt an Fahrzeuggewicht, dürfen aber 0,05 Bar mehr Ladedruck fahren, während wir Marvin Dienst gerade sehen im Winboard Racing Mercedes AMG. Das Auto, ja, wir haben gestern noch mal mit Lukas Stolz gesprochen, ne? Waren ganz erstaunt, dass dieses hervorragende Auto 10 Jahre schon auf dem Puckel hat. Nicht dieses Auto, aber seit 10 Jahren gibt es ja Mercedes AMG. Und wenn man so ein bisschen in die Historie guckte, Mercedes AMG ist mit 3 Siegen in der Endurance-Klasse und 2 Siege in der Sprintklasse die leistungsstärkste Marke Barcelonas. Und vor allen Dingen wissen wir aus der Vergangenheit, dass die Mercedes AMGs hier in Barcelona immer stark waren. Das muss man sagen. Audi hat 2 Sprintsiege errungen und Ferrari ein Trumpf in der Endurance-Klasse. Und vor allen Dingen muss man auch sagen, wir haben aus der Teilnehmerliste an diesem Wochenende 10 vergangene Sieger im Endurance Cups. Da haben wir mal Patrick Niederhauser, der 2024 gewonnen hat. Ebenso Sven Müller mit 2024. Alessio Rovera, der Ferrari-Werkspilot bei AF Corse 2023. Mattia Caroli 2022. Alessio Piccarello auch 2022. Raffaele Marciello 2020 und 2021, also 10 ehemalige Sieger, die das Saisonfinale auch hier in Angriff nehmen. Und die Stimmung, kann ich Ihnen sagen, da drüben im Fahrerlager ist gut. Heute Morgen noch zusammen der Marsch von Lukas Auer und Maro Engel vom Parkplatz ins Fahrerlager runter. Quietschvergnügt waren die beiden. Gabriele Piana haben wir auch mit Marvin Dienst getroffen. Also alle haben das Lachen auf den Lippen und freuen sich natürlich auf dieses Saisonfinale. Im Grunde ein Jahr, was viel zu schnell vorbeigegangen ist.
Wir haben also 9 Veranstaltungen schon gesehen, 4 Endurance-Läufe und 5 Sprintrennen in diesem Jahr, beziehungsweise 10 Sprintrennen, 5 Veranstaltungen. Darunter unter anderem eben das 24-Stunden-Rennen von Spa-Francorchamps, das große Saison-Highlight, das 1000-Kilometer-Rennen, beziehungsweise 6-Stunden-Rennen in Le Castellet. Das waren 2 der Endurance-Läufe. Dann waren wir noch in Monza zu Gast und natürlich auf heimischer Strecke für uns am Nürburgring, bevor es dann mit dem Endurance Cup hier zum großen Finale ging. Und das hier, das ist eine Mannschaft, die neu in die GT World Challenge eingestiegen ist, an diesem Wochenende einen Gaststart absolviert mit dem McLaren, die Greystone GT-Mannschaft, die man ja aus den vergangenen Jahren aus der McLaren Trophy kennt und auch schon in der GT4 European Series mal zu Gast gewesen sind. Die 3 Fahrer, Jaden Kelly, Zach McKean und Michael O'Brien, das sind die Piloten, oder Michael O'Brien müsste es sein, die 3 Piloten, die den McLaren in Türkis gehalten haben und hier über die Strecke pilotieren werden, während wir die Führenden im Bronze Cup gerade im Bild eingefangen haben, den Kessel Racing Ferrari mit den 3 Piloten Konrad Lawson, Dennis Marshall und Dustin Blattner, die ja auch schon im Sprint Cup für viel Furore gesorgt haben.
Ja, definitiv die Kessel-Mannschaft, gerade mit dem Auto, was du angesprochen hast, da haben wir das Auto im Bild. Eine bärenstarke Saison hinter sich, ohne Wenn und Aber. Dennis Marshall auch immer für eine Pole immer gut. Aber wer macht jetzt die Pole Position an diesem Wochenende beim Finale auf 4 des Endurance Cup der GT World Challenge? Ja, die Frage, die bleibt noch offen und irgendwann wird sie auch beantwortet werden. Aber diese 2 Stunden mit den 60 Autos ist jetzt erstmal wirklich ein bisschen gucken, ob der Apparat läuft. Und einfach mal, wir haben einige neue Fahrer mit dabei, da gehen wir später noch drauf ein. Ja, erstmal sehen, dass man alle 3 Piloten mal durchkriegt, sich im Auto wohlfühlen, um dann gemeinschaftliche Abstimmung hinzubekommen und zu sagen, so fahren wir dann das 3-Stunden-Rennen am morgigen Sonntag, was ja dann um 15 Uhr gestartet wird, wie gesagt, über 3 Stunden die Renndistanz hier in Barcelona.
Auf den Bildern gut zu erkennen gewesen, gerade eben, wir fahren die jeweils 2 schnellen Varianten. Einmal Kurve 10, das ist am Ende von Sektor 2, beziehungsweise der Anfang von Sektor 3, diese Linkskurve. Da fahren wir den etwas weiteren Bogen und nicht diese Enge, wie sie vor einigen Jahren noch in der Formel 1 gefahren wurde. Und auch Turn 13 ist die schnelle Variante, die Motorradvariante, die dort gefahren wird. Auch das kennen wir mittlerweile schon aus den vergangenen Jahren. Auch da wird die Schikane kurz vor Start und Ziel ausgelassen.
Ja, es gibt zumindest, wenn wir uns die Bilder jetzt mal so angucken, auch eine Änderung, zwar 2 beim Porsche Schumacher CLRT. Der frisch gebackene DTM-Champion Ayhan Güven wird zusammenfahren mit Alessandro Giretti und dem Rückkehrer, muss man sagen, Larry Tenforde, der ja auch schon in Monza die Crew mit der Startnummer 22 unterstützt hat. Klaus Bachler und Laurin Heinrich fehlen eben halt an diesem Wochenende. Das so ein bisschen hin und wieder mal die Infos für sie nach Hause, weil es gibt da immer wieder Umbesetzungen, auch bei Grasser, da müssen wir nachhören, gab es dann gestern Nacht noch eine Umbenennung, aber da müssen wir noch rausfinden, wer bei Grasser da neu ins Boot im Lamborghini gekommen ist.
Gerd Verasa und Isaac Tutumlo Lopez sind die neuen Piloten, die den Lamborghini dann pilotieren werden von GRT Grasser. Kurz zum Thema, warum jetzt Klaus Bachler und Laurin Heinrich nicht hier fahren. Es gibt halt eine Überschneidung mit einer anderen Serie Übersee in Amerika. Und deswegen hat man dort gesagt, okay, dann wird Larry Tenforde, der ja auch schon, war es in Monza? Ich glaube, es war in Monza. Klaus Bachler und Laurin Heinrich vertreten hat, in das Auto steigen und er dann eben gemeinsam mit den anderen Teamkollegen, die du ja eben schon angesprochen hattest, Alessandro Giretti und Ayhan Güven, dieses Rennen in Angriff nehmen.
Bei der Getspeed-Mannschaft, die Mercedes AMG, das ist das 6er Auto, sind normalerweise gewohnt Lynn Hodenius. Der wird dieses Wochenende ersetzt von Tom Kalender in der Startnummer und 6. Die Getspeed-Mannschaft, Tanat Sakaulu und Aaron Walker. Das sind seine beiden Teamkollegen. Das Auto was im Silbercup an diesem Wochenende am Start geht.
Dann gibt es noch eine Änderung bei Ferrari. Auch das hat etwas mit der IMSA-Serie in Amerika zu tun. Auch da gab es eine Überschneidung, weshalb dann eben Alessandro Pierguidi nicht den 51er Ferrari pilotieren kann. Alessio Rovera und Vincent April bekommen einen neuen Teamkollegen an die Seite, aber auch ein junger Mann, der verdammt schnell ist und in diesem Jahr das Ganze auch schon bewiesen hat nämlich unter anderem das 24-Stunden-Rennen von Le Mans für sich entscheiden können. Yifei, der Chinese, wird also den 51er 296 GT3 Ferrari in Barcelona bewegen dürfen.
Ja, Daten studieren, Darren Long, Paradigm Competition BMW, auch der Chef, der Besitzer von dieses Team, himself auch Fahrer, guckt sich selbst mal die Daten an. Ja, und Daten sind jetzt über die 2 Stunden ganz wichtig. Die Erkenntnis, während wir hier bei der WRT-Mannschaft sind in der Box, ja, Daten sind ganz wichtig in Sachen Performance des Autos, denn es geht, oder es ist das Finale und da will man mit Sicherheit nochmal glänzen. Vor allen Dingen geht es ja auch noch um den Sieg overall. Die Punktestände werden wir Ihnen dann später ein bisschen nennen und vor allen Dingen auch in die einzelnen Klassen um den Gewinn, eben halt Silber- und Bronze-Cup. Da ist nämlich die Entscheidung noch wirklich auch im Gold-Cup.
Verstappen.com Racing, der Aston Martin mit der Startnummer 33, Harry King, Thierry Vermeulen und Chris Lalem, die 3 Piloten, die sich den Aston Martin hier an diesem Wochenende erneut teilen werden. Wir kennen das in diesem Jahr schon. In der Endurance-Meisterschaft ist man mit dem britischen Gefährt unterwegs, während man sich eben bei der Sprintserie auf den Ferrari 296 konzentriert mit Thierry Vermeulen und Chris Lalem, dort unter der Bezeichnung von Emil Frey Racing. Hier ist es dann tatsächlich Verstappen.com bei 2Cs Motorsport, das Einsatzteam im Endurance Cup, und die haben auch in diesem Jahr schon gezeigt, dass mit ihnen zu rechnen ist, haben innerhalb der ersten 5 Veranstaltungen lediglich, in Anführungszeichen, lediglich ein Rennen gewinnen können, standen dann aber bei allen Rennen mit auf dem Podium. Wir erinnern uns zurück, man war in Spa-Francorchamps der glückliche Sieger. Man war auf Rang 2 in Le Castellet, Rang 2 in Monza, Rang 3 am Nürburgring.
Wenn wir mal so ein bisschen rechnen, sollten alle 60 Autos an den Start gehen, dann beträgt, wenn wir mal das ganze Jahr Revue passieren lassen, die durchschnittliche Starterzahl in der Saison 2025 62 Autos. Und vor allen Dingen ist hier Barcelona die kürzeste Strecke im Kalender des Endurance Cups mit diesen, wie gesagt, knapp 4,7 Kilometer. Und die längste Strecke ist natürlich dann mit etwas über 7 Kilometer Spa-Francorchamps. Das mal wirklich zum Vergleich. Und vor allen Dingen ist es so, dass hier das Qualifying, die Pole Position absolut wichtig ist. Denn ja, gewonnen hat man dieses Rennen aus der ersten, zweiten und dritten Startposition. Alles andere, was dahinter ist, das wird dann eben halt wirklich schwierig werden. Und deswegen bin ich mir ganz sicher, dass man sehen wird beim Qualifying, dass man wirklich vorne steht. Man hat gewonnen, noch nie schlechter wie der 3. Platz. 3 Sieger sind im Grunde von der Pole Position gestartet. Ein Sieg kam von Platz 2 und 2 Siege von P3. Also deswegen, alles was dahinter ist relativ schwierig bei 60 Autos, bei den knapp 4,7 Kilometer, den 16 Kurven, ja, überholen geht. Aber wie gesagt, wir wollen nicht vorhergreifen, denn 60 Autos morgen beim 3-Stunden-Rennen mit den 2 Boxenstopps, also das wird zum Saisonfinale, Saisonabschluss der GT World Challenge, Europowered bei AWS, nochmal wirklich so ein Highlight werden. Motorsport im GT3-Sport vom Feinsten, und da freuen wir uns auf den morgigen Tag ganz riesig. Aber wir haben an dem Wochenende nicht nur die GT World Challenge, wir haben die GT4 European Series, die auch mit 44 Autos prall gefüllt ist. Wir haben an dem Wochenende die Lamborghinis mit dabei und ganz interessant, die European GT2 Series. Und da gibt es, die Zeit haben wir jetzt beim freien Training. Sebastian, wir haben uns beide angemeldet für nächstes Jahr schon. Ja, schön wär's.
Das geht nur U30, ne?
Ach so, U30. Nee, dann sind
U30,
wir, dann sind wir raus. Aber vor allen Dingen glaube ich, dass sich der SRO, Stefan Rattel Organization, unser Chef, der hat sich mal für nächstes Jahr, muss man sagen, was ganz Tolles einfallen lassen.
Wer schon mal die französische GT-Serie begleitet hat, der weiß, dass es sowas gibt wie eine SRO Academy. Die wird jetzt ausgeweitet auf die SRO GT Academy in der GT2 im nächsten Jahr. Es wird eine neue Klasse geben, eine Silberklasse für Fahrer unter 30. Und wer dort teilnimmt mit einem Fahrzeug aus dem Hause Maserati, Mercedes oder Ginetta, das sind im Moment die 3 Hersteller, die teilnehmen, kann am Ende des Jahres einen Fahrerplatz für 2027 in der GT World Challenge im Endurance Cup für sich beanspruchen und gewinnen. Man kann dort dann in dem Silber Cup starten, man darf aber auch in der Pro AM-Wertung, wo dann ein Bronzefahrer an seiner Seite sitzt, starten. Da werden die Wertungen eben dann gleich gewichtet. Es geht nicht allein darum, dass man am Ende die meisten Punkte gesammelt hat. Nein, es geht auch um die schnellsten Rennrunden, es geht um die Qualifying-Ergebnisse, es geht auch um die Durchschnittszeit jedes einzelnen Fahrers, der 10 schnellsten Runden in einem Rennen. Also dort geht es mehr als nur darum, am Ende des Rennens ganz oben zu stehen. Und da freuen wir uns drauf, dieses dieses nächste Jahr die GT2 European Series zu begleiten. Denn, ja, Stefan Rattel hat bisher gesagt, es sind 3 verschiedene Marken. Es gibt ja aber noch so viele, viele weitere Fahrzeuge, die in der GT2 European Series in Frage kommen würden. Da ist man im Moment am Arbeiten. Vielleicht kann man das Ganze noch auf Audi, KTM, Brabham, Ferrari, Porsche oder Lamborghini ausweiten. Wir dürfen gespannt sein, was das kommende Jahr bringt. Auch in der GT2 European Series fährt man ja einheitliche Pirelli-Reifen. Und man hat im nächsten Jahr 6 Veranstaltungen, 5-mal im Rahmen der GT World Challenge in Monza, Misano, am Nürburgring, Zandvoort und beim Saisonfinale in Portimao. Und dazu kommt dann noch im Rahmen der British GT das Rennen in Spa-Francorchamps. Das die 6 Veranstaltungen, das mal so ein bisschen kurz aufgedröselt, was es mit der GT2 European Series und der damit zusammenhängenden GT Academy zu tun hat. Jetzt wollen wir uns aber wieder so ein bisschen auf das konzentrieren, was draußen auf der Strecke unterwegs ist. Und du hast es eben schon mal so ein bisschen angedeutet. Die kürzeste Strecke mit 60 Fahrzeugen. Ja. Ich habe mal eben so ein bisschen ausgerechnet, es sind rund alle 76 Meter ein GT3-Fahrzeug. Wir haben uns in Spa-Francorchamps ja schon über alle, was waren es, 98, 97 Meter?
Knapp 100 Meter waren es.
Knapp 100 Meter haben wir uns schon gedacht, boah, das kann ja kaum enger werden. Ja doch. Können wir noch mal um ein Viertel runterdrücken.
Ja, das zeigt natürlich auch die Beliebtheit der GT World Challenge. Nicht umsonst sind 60 Autos hier, auch bei der GT4 European Series mit 44 Autos. Das zeigt ja immer, dass diese Serie, ja, ich will nicht sagen wächst, im Grunde gibt es ja auch schon fast, muss man sagen, Wartelisten, ja, dass man überhaupt fahren darf, wenn einer ausfällt. Von daher pickepacke voll. Und ich glaube auch, während wir noch genügend Zeit haben, ich glaube auch für die Zuschauer ist es wirklich, wirklich spannend, egal wo wir in Europa sind. Im deutschen Boden ist es dann eben halt der Nürburgring oder rüber nach Belgien in Spa. Wird
oder
auch
Zandvoort in Holland.
Ja, Zandvoort in Holland nicht zu vergessen. Wird auch rundherum für die Fans, nicht nur mit dem Boxengassenbesuch heute Abend, mit den Autogrammstunden der Fahrer, geworben, dass man wirklich hautnah mal drankommt und vielleicht den einen oder anderen Satz auch mal reden kann. Das ist auch die GT World Challenge Europe. Und drum im Fahrerlager auch hier. Festival der Autos haben wir hier mit bei. Das ist hier pickepacke voll an diesem Wochenende. Mehr geht schon gar nicht mehr hier in Barcelona im Fahrerlager. Ist es nicht nur die härteste GT3-Serie der Welt und auch die spannendste GT3-Serie und vor allen Dingen ist sie auch, und ich bleibe dabei, absolut, wir kennen viele Rennserien, absolut auch zuschauernah, muss man sagen, wären wir gerade da. Ja, da sehen wir links den Chef Akin AK, links sitzen der Herr da mit dem T-Shirt, der gerade mal seinen Kopf dreht, der immer auch gut ist, da wo eine Kamera ist, ist Akin AK auch da. Die Mannschaft, auch dann ja, wird gegrüßt. Alex Acker sehe ich nicht, kann sein, dass er im Auto sitzt. Im Moment im Audi R8 aber werden wir drösen. Patrick Niederhauser haben wir im Bild, den Rotronic Porsche, die an diesem Wochenende ja auch noch, lieber Sebastian Wörtchen, mitreden wollen. Im Moment 1:41.077 ist die Bestzeit für Patrick Niederhauser im 96er Rotronic. Porsche ist ja auch eine riesenstarke Mannschaft mit Alessio Piccarello und Sven Müller rund um den Chef, der die Fäden zieht, Klaus Graf. Der auch, man sagt, manchmal gewinnt man, manchmal verliert man. Der kennt das selbst aus seiner aktiven Zeit über viele, viele Jahre, auch sehr erfolgreich, der Klaus Graf. Der weiß, wie ein Rennfahrer fühlt und der weiß auch, wie man so ein Porsche aus dem Hause Rotronic über die 3 Stunden Renndistanz wirklich bringt. Also eine starke Mannschaft, aber hin und wieder muss man auch sagen, manchmal auch vom Pech verfolgt. Wir wollen jetzt nicht von Track Limits reden, da haben wir dann morgen noch genug Zeit drüber. Aber so ist eben halt der knallharte Motorsport in der GT World Challenge.
Wenn wir das Ganze dann aufgemacht haben, wollen wir es natürlich auch wieder schließen. Sie haben in der Sprintserie den Titel nicht nach Hause holen können. Die Rotronic-Mannschaft sind da knapp gescheitert an der WRT-Mannschaft, am BMW mit der 32. Kelvin van der Linde und Charles Werts haben vor wenigen Wochen in Valencia den Titel einfahren können. An dieser Stelle Gratulation zu Titel Nummer 1 Kelvin van der Linde, zu Titel Nummer 4 Charles Werts. Und dann wollen wir natürlich auch noch mal so ein bisschen auf die Meisterschaft eingehen, wo Sven Müller, Alessio Picariello und Patrick Niederhauser im Moment an der 2. Position rangieren. Und das Ganze nur 5 Punkte hinter den Tabellenführern Matteo Cairoli, Maro Engel und Lukas Auer. Das die Endurance-Wertung. Wenn wir overall blicken, also Sprint und Endurance zusammengerechnet.
Ja, sind die Rotronic-Mannschaft der 3. Position, führend mit 148,5 Punkte. Ist die 48, das ist ja die Mamba mit Lukas Auer, mit Maro Engel und Matteo Cairoli. Nur 5 Punkte dahinter ist das 32er Auto mit Team WRT, Kelvin van der Linde, Charles Wert und Hugo de Wilde. Und wie gesagt, dann von dir angesprochen, 12 Punkte dahinter, minus die 3. Position eben halt für die Rotronic-Mannschaft. Und mit Rückstand von 23 Punkte ist es Mirko Bortolotti, Jordan Pepper und Luca Engsler. 25 Punkte werden vergeben, also noch ist da nicht aller Tage Abend. Overall werden wir da mal kurz sehen, genau dieses angesprochene Auto aus dem Hause WRT, die im Overall minus 5 Punkte haben, wenn es im Sektor 1 momentan gerade gelb gibt. Und ich sage mal, und da sehen wir auch den Grund. Oje, oje, oje. Das haben wir schon mal öfters gesehen. Lion Speed GP mit Ricardo Feller, Patrick Kolb und Gabriele Ridone. Und
Kolb, der Fahrer.
Ja, das ist natürlich dann, auch die sind gebügelt mit diesem Auto. Die haben schon öfter so ein paar Abflüge gehabt.
Das ist Kurve 3. Heißt, nach der ersten Schikane in diesem langgezogenen Rechtsbogen, wo man den Porsche abgestellt hat, steht er aber, muss man sagen, relativ günstig, direkt an der Rettungstasche. Da kann man den jetzt rückwärts rausziehen.
Vielleicht kriegen wir da eine Wiederholung. Vor allen Dingen sind die Kurven in Barcelona lang gezogen, was auch dann wirklich lange, lange Kurven, wenn man so sieht, auch Turn 11, Turn 12 bis runter Kurve 13 und 14, ist das auch wie in der Vergangenheit eine Belastung für die Pirelli-Räder, gerade für die äußeren Räder. Und wir sehen da nochmal den Punktestand, den wir gerade angesprochen haben. So sieht es momentan beim freien Training aus. Aber das wird sich dann immer wieder, auch morgen beim Rennen, werden wir mit Sicherheit immer wieder ein Update alle halbe Stunde kriegen oder vielleicht alle 3/4 Stunde, wie momentan der Punktestand sind. Momentan Matteo Cairoli, Maro Engel, Lukas Auer 72. Und ich glaube, nach dem letzten Wochenende, wenn wir mal Hockenheim Revue passieren lassen, glaube ich, wäre es dann vielleicht eine Genugtuung für Lukas Auer mit Maro Engel natürlich auch dann hier den Titel Overall dann hier zu holen in der GT World Challenge. Ja, werden wir dann jetzt natürlich dann an der Box fahren. Ja, die Rettungstasche, da ist, man könnte ihn rückwärts reinziehen. Schauen wir mal, was die spanischen Fotografen da einfangen und die spanischen Marshals. Natürlich echt Pech. Damit ist dieses freie Training für diese Mannschaft ja erstmal wirklich gelaufen. Patrick Kolb, der momentan, ja, der war bis dato mit 1,41,536 der 5 schnellste momentan. Und ich bin mir sicher, dass unsere Kollegen aus dem Television Truck, aus dem Ü-Wagen vielleicht eine Wiederholung zeigen werden. Aber ich denke mal, das war keine Berührung, das war einfach das Auto am Heck verlieren.
And again, shows you the speed the car's carrying, 160k or so through turn 3.
Trying to work out where that sort of almost concrete-looking substance on the left has come from.
I think that's the foam that's inside those rector-cell barriers.
Right,
so the plaster outer coating's being ripped open, and that is the dissipating energy foam that's there. But
so it's come out of that orange tear.
Exactly.
Yeah.
The drone giving us a phenomenal shot. I actually prefer the livery of that Lion Speed car, of a black front end.
Yes, it does look quite good, doesn't it?
Now it's lost the whole front bumper, but yeah, the Manitou already there. You can see it's got its joist in place, which basically just hooks straight into the roll cage through the roof, and it will get lifted up in the next minute onto the back of the flatbed, and we will probably be green, I reckon, with an hour and 25 to go.
Yeah, the time-consuming bit possibly is whether anything needs to be done about that rector cell barrier. But for now, the teams in the pit lane are able to have a work on the car. All of this eats into the session, of course, but it's been an elongated free practice session anyway of late, because the teams have been saying, look, 90 minutes, not quite enough. We could do with a bit more time. So where the timetables allow free practice up to 2 hours, and confirmation that Patrick Kolb is okay. He's somebody that's come from historic Porsche racing, really, in the German young timer category through into GT racing, and has got faster and faster and faster over the course of the season. Right, let's get to the pit lane. Matteo Caroli is part of the number 48 Mercedes crew. We can hear from him, and for the first time this weekend, we can hear from Alex Legui.
Matteo, a vital day for you. What are you learning so far from free practice?
Well, it's still a long way to go, first of all. We are trying to get sorted as much as possible. So at the moment, the package looks strong. So we should be in a good position for a good fight for the last race here in Barcelona. So yeah, I mean, car is feeling quite well. The traffic is an important key. I think it's key priority number one for this weekend. Try to get a clear lap and put everything together. So not scared about the car itself. I'm scared about you know, what can happen that we cannot control. But you know, it's part of the game, and we will try our best to end up in a position where we can be safe. Let's say.
Solid start. Thank you.
Matteo Caroli, who's not an AMG Mercedes factory driver, but has been a very, very useful addition to the ranks, moving from Lamborghini. He was associated with Porsche for many years, had that season with Lamborghini that didn't really gel. He's also been racing in LMP2 in the European Le Mans Series. So, you know, you've got somebody else there who is being able to say to teams and manufacturers, look what I can do, use me, because there are so many sports car GT championships and events almost every weekend of 51 weeks of the year. If you can prove you're versatile, employment's there.
It really is, and some drivers now are actually finding it better financially, mainly is the motivation, to be self-employed technically and not tie yourself directly to a manufacturer who pay you a set fee normally. Sometimes there's some bonus schemes, but when you're self-employed, if you're on a run of form and you can suddenly work 51 weekends of the year and have Christmas off, you're earning a lot more money and you're in control. So we are seeing just a golden age of sports car racing, and that's now changing maybe the mentality of some drivers, as Cole there walking away with his bumper. He feels like it's in good enough condition to recycle, and it's worth it. That will be 7,000 euros worth of front bumper, and looks relatively upbeat. I think that's probably because he was running in 5th out of the 60 cars on the grid. But yeah, not just a driver, he's trying to recycle and reuse.
Yeah, I think Riccardo Fella had done a lot of the hard yards in that to do the time, but it was a good effort. And Patrick Kolb has certainly got faster and faster. The pictures on the big screen there showing the fans what's going on. The drone hovers above the pit lane where you go from Rutronic up over the ComTU Astons, for example, Get Speed Mercedes, keep on going over Valkenhorst, up then to the Ceccato Italy BMW. Barwell should be down there somewhere, and then hover over the AF Corsa Ferrari fleet, then to Paradigm, and then to the VSR Lamborghinis. Patrick Niederhauser, we've been saying how well he's been going this morning. Fastest so far by 2/10, and Alex Legui has managed to catch up with Patrick sitting in the car. Let's get back to the pit lane.
Patrick, a very solid start so far. What are you learning about this session?
Yeah, it was quite different than Thursday. Obviously, the track has changed quite a lot, I think, in general. It was a very decent start for us, but yeah, let's see where we end up. The session is still very, very early.
Do you feel like you have race pace in the car?
We do hope so. I think it's generally a good race car that we have, at least over the long run, and this is actually what we are now putting our main focus on, to have a decent balance for the race. 3 hours is still quite long, so yeah, we try to find the best balance for Sunday afternoon.
Patrick Niederhauser then getting ready to go. We are still under red flag conditions. We're just waiting for the Porsche to be retrieved, and the Rutronic car, the team looked after by Klaus Graf, himself a very successful driver, going back at least 2 decades now, but he's in charge overseeing that team. There's the Recticel patch, if you like, being put on just to put it in place for the remainder of the session.
Yeah, not just race cars that use gaffer tape to fix it,
yeah,
it
true.
seems. So they've put the foam back in. I assume now they're patching up. The car has been placed on the track. I wonder if that's because they want to drive it back. I would have thought they would have put it straight onto that low loader if they needed to. But a great illustration of how the cars have to be positioned. When you've got so many cars in pit lane, you cannot park parallel. It has to be at 45 degrees and nose out, and just trying to create as much of a safe environment for these teams as possible when these cars get released.
Driver change or driver swap going on in 991. Shows you how busy the pit lane is, doesn't it? And even though it's a long pit straight, about 1 kilometre long in itself, it shows that fairly snug. There's the RJN McLaren, single car entry. The Stella Corvette, which has been a popular addition on the grid this season. And then you get to the Tresor Attempto Audis there as well.
Yeah, I mean, the pit lane length is 369 metres, and that's with a bit of margin at the end. So you've literally got 5 metres per car, and the length of the car is 5 metres without any margin front or rear bumper to get in and out. And almost a victim of his own success sometimes, isn't it, GT World Challenge? The teams will always have a complaint if they get boxed in pit lane, but then again, that's where strategy comes in. Do you pit earlier when the pit lane is quieter, maybe take a hit on overall strategy, but get a cleaner pit stop? And again, that's where the good teams can make a difference.
There are the Garage 59 McLarens that have had good pace, and certainly at the start of the year seemed to struggle for reliability. And then something clicked, didn't it, mid-season, and the cars were absolutely bang on.
They really have been. They've been the McLaren team for me this season. They've elevated themselves. They had an awful Paul Ricard, as you just said there, David, but they've sorted everything out and have really been the form team for the last part of the season.
Let's get back to the pit lane. Vincent Abril, part of the number 51 Ferrari crew, is currently with Alex.
Vincent, very good start for you boys. What feedback are you getting so far?
No, good. I think we were running through the plan. We had a couple hours of testing on Thursday with different track conditions. So I think this is suiting us a little bit more, and we're having a much clearer read of where we are in the let's say, yeah, in the standings. So no, so far so good.
You have a great history here. What is it about this track that suits your car so much?
It seems that there's a lot of high-speed corners now with the new configuration in the last sector. It's less stop and go, and it's much more flowing. So obviously this suits the characteristics of our car a little bit more. And it seems like so far we're having a good weekend, and we'd like to finish the season on a high.
Most important thing for you boys to get out of free practice?
No troubles, no penalties like in Valencia. And just keep working through the plan. Make sure we also have a strong car for the race, because one lap pace is good, but we also need a consistent car. And around here, degradation is quite critical. So maybe not in those cooler temperatures, but let's see throughout the day how things get.
Thank you. Thank you.
Vincent Bril there, just touching on Valencia, which, Joe, of course, was where the championship was, where you were for the last Sprint Cup round. So champions in that part of World Challenge Europe already decided.
Yeah, the 32 car of Charles Weerts in Van der Linde with a phenomenally roller coaster weekend. Race 1 had a terrible qualifying right in the mid-pack, got wiped out turn 2, lap 1, and that was their race done. And it suddenly looked like it was really the Grasser 63 car that won at Spa 24's chance to win the championship. But then race 2 on Sunday, it was just the other way round, and Van der Linde was in mental form, would be the only way I could describe it. It was just a man possessed and hustled that car and really won the championship for the WRT team 32, and it was a phenomenal race. All weekend at Valencia we had so much action, and now we've come to another Spanish track. I expect the same.
But a very different sort of feel for 3 hours, and you're looking there at Sean Gallard without the crash helmet, getting set for the resumption of this session. Are those concerned faces at Paradigm, I wonder? Darren Lung.
It's just one step lower, but where intervening.
Let's try and listen in.
It's still nice because, like, initially you still need the rotation for on power, like to just, or else you just push forward.
Mixed emotions there. Yeah. To me, maybe talking about the rear anti-roll bar. They said one step low, important for rotation, and that rear anti-roll bar links the left and the right side of the car. And the softer you go, the more traction you get, but the more understeer. And that was that racing driver talk, as he used all his body and hands to show squat on the rear. And there's always a balance between Pro and Am. Pro normally prefer a more oversteery car where the rear is loose so they can get more rotation and be faster, whereas the Am sometimes can get spooked by that and prefers more of a neutral to understeer balance, as we see the very, very relaxed Weerts aboard the car.
And you also saw there the Gold Endurance Championship standings, which is currently the Thierry Vermeulen, Harry King, Chris Lallam combination ahead of Jens Klingman, Al-Faisal Al-Zubar and Ben Tuck by 16 points. And again, the outsiders, but still mathematically capable of winning it, Simon Gachet, Arthur Rougier and James Kell. So the Porsche was on the back of the flatbed. We'd seen that. Cars at the end of the fast lane. Some have been there for the last 10, 15 minutes or so, but I think now we are heading towards the session restarting. We are about 45 seconds away, so a little bit more activity now in the pit lane. That means drivers are on board, tyres are coming back onto the cars, and engines are being fired up. So the cars being... Oh, now, this is interesting. Cars going down the pit lane, but we haven't yet had a green flag anywhere, as far as I can see. This might not go down too well. Anyway, let's get back to the pit lane. Jaden Kelly is with Alex.
Well, hello, Jaden. It's great to have you boys in. Congratulations on your win.
Thank you. Thank you very much. It's great to be here. Greystone and the whole team are super excited to be at a GT World Challenge weekend finally. You know, we've worked very hard to be here. Everyone's kind of very excited and starstruck, but we're working hard and we're happy.
You are, I believe, the combined age. You are still probably the youngest on the grid. And for a debut, Barcelona is quite a challenge.
Yeah, you've got a lot of long, laterally loaded corners, so it is quite tough on the tire. But, you know, we've all done quite a decent amount of racing, so I think with our combined experience, we should be able to make good strides over the weekend.
Well, great to have you in the paddock.
Jaden Kelly, who's only been racing in Europe for a couple of years, fresh out of karting, but big step, wasn't it? You know, you come from the other side of the world, you come to not only new circuits, new team, new culture. You know, it's and for a young guy as well, it's a massive commitment. And yeah, he's excelled as a driver, but the other side of that is that it's a major commitment to come and leave home, come to the other side of the world and go racing.
Yeah, Matthew, so I actually worked with Jaden on his first ever day in a GT car, the McLaren Artura, and he was a phenomenal talent on his first day on track, and I remember saying to his dad, David, this kid has got something. And luckily for Jaden, actually, his father based in Barcelona, so this is technically his home race, and they've linked up well with Hilton as well. Obviously, you're used to Hilton and McLaren sponsorship in Formula One, but they've continued that partnership into GT racing, and it's working well for both Jaden, Hilton, and everyone at Greystone, it would seem.
Marco Sorensen aboard number 7. Still slightly confusing as to why the cars were leaving the pit lane before all the green lights and green flags had been shown. However, the session is back live as you there see the Verstappen.com 2Cs Aston in the pit lane. Harry King has rather commandeered the car this morning, and I think he's going to go and have another stint, isn't he?
Yeah, I don't know if that's because he's like the nominated lead driver, or that his teammates in Vermeulen and Lullen are doing sprint, and King just wants to get his eye back in potentially. But yeah, he is really staked a claim in that car.
But you think they'd all want the track time because they only drive that car in endurance, unless they say, well, OK, look, Harry does the bulk of the driving in free practice, Thierry does the bulk of the driving in pre-qualifying, and you know, the rest of the time goes to Chris. There's no doubt a master plan somewhere.
Yeah, you do need a team leader drive-wise to set the tone of setup of car, and then you almost get the other two just to drive it and A-OK it, and if they're not happy, that's when the issues start. But at the moment, going okay for Harry King, 20th and the fastest Aston Martin. As we look at another Aston Martin, the 007 Competition Racing with Sorensen aboard at the moment.
And that car has really yet to ignite in this session. It's only 42nd, but the Aston goes through. Marco Sorensen has had great success with Aston, whether it's been in GT World Challenge, of course, winner of the 24 Hours of Spa last year, and he's a multiple champion in the GTE within the World Endurance Championship. That class no longer there. It's been replaced by GT3, but even so, as he slides the car a little bit out of turn 2, Sorensen, we know, is a real star for Aston Martin. And it'll be interesting to see what he can do in terms of a time now, as Arthur Leclerc, in the meantime, gets himself boxed into the traffic. There's number 77. You've heard from Jaden Kelly. It was Michael O'Brien driving the car earlier on. A very crowded house indeed as Leclerc forces his way through, and also the Ziggo Sport Tempesta Ferrari trying to get in on the act as well. That car currently being driven by Eddie Cheever.
It's a bit of a race going on, is it? The Lamborghini, I think, must have caused some grievance to the first of the AF course Ferraris, because that was a relatively aggressive overtake, and now suddenly with that red flag, we lost 20 minutes of running. It seems like everyone wants the same bit of a real estate as they go into sector 3 here.
Yeah, one car we've not yet seen, but just to make the point about it, number 97, the other Rutronic Porsche, Antares Au was done for what was considered a dangerous manoeuvre in testing in the week, and therefore he has been given a 3-place grid drop, or that car has been given a 3-place grid drop for the race on Sunday. So no matter where it qualifies tomorrow morning, add 3 for number 97 Porsche.
Yeah, you can see the BMW down low, just trying to find a bit of space to get his eye in this morning. There are his first laps that he's done, and you let 2 cars by, and then suddenly the Greystone car is on his rear bumper, and that was what we're talking about, just the lack of space to be able to pump in a clear lap and see what pace you've got underneath you is very difficult.
Augusto Farfus, who is 38th in the times for BMW, is about to go top, I think, because he's done 2 purple sectors. Top speed at turn 3 currently claimed by Patrick Niederhauser from the aforementioned Augusto Farfus, who is about to come across the timing line, and as he does so, that Rover BMW will jump up the order, and Farfus does go fastest. So the target time in the session now is a 1:41.058. 11th now here is where you find number 50 Ferrari of Arthur Leclerc.
Yeah, the BMW phenomenally fast, like you said, David. Sector 1 and 2 purple, faster than anyone, and then was over 4/10 slower in sector 3. So was that them just monitoring the pace, and they've got a set lap time to not go below? And at the moment, that seems to be a 1:41.0, because that lap, which could have been a mid-40, suddenly only 19 thousandths quicker than Niederhauser.
Now Leclerc has to try and work his way through the traffic. He's got there the Al Markid Qatari Federation Audi ahead, the Santalot run car with one of the nicest colour schemes, the purple and grey, and it's been great to have that team on the grid. Julian Hansen's rejoining for this weekend. So an hour and a quarter, give or take, remains of free practice, and now that everybody's been allowed out of the pits in a long wave, of course, pretty much everyone's got company. We need the gaps to open up again before people can think about clear space around them. But Farfus then in the BMW number 98, currently the fastest. That's the Rover motor oil liveried car.
Yeah, and the BMW has been strong, hasn't it, the past few races of this season. And you can see down long, still with traffic streaming past him there, one of the CSA McLarens there. It's a Stella Corvette, a phenomenally sounding car, isn't it? If you're ever able to get to one of the GT World Challenge races, that is the car for me that stands out as it thunders past you.
Riding on board then now with number 48. This is Mauro Engel at the wheel. So the championship leader, currently 5th, and Mauro Engel installed behind the wheel, heading now along that short straight up towards turn 4.
Yeah, 8 tenths down in sector 1 already. We rode on board with the BMW earlier. Now our chance to see the Mercedes. We also can see Engel's hands here, so we can see how much lock he's having to use. Looks like the car's got great front end. He's not used much steering to get in, but the rear slightly nervous. That was that balance I was talking about, what the Pro prefers. And it seems like 48 Manfield to Windward car is right there, and it's very well handling right now for what I would assume is another used tyre run. Doesn't use much entry curve there on the entry to 9. Uses plenty of the apex though. Slight vibration in the car. You can see the rear view mirror just bouncing along. Of course these cars are stiff, but normally it is a bit smoother than that. So maybe a wheel weight out on one of his tyres. Holding it really tight there. It's an interesting line. That's an interesting one to keep an eye on, if that's a Mercedes or an Engel trick coming out of the slow turn 10. 2 corners to go. This is where we've seen lots of gravel on the track. We've got a Porsche in front, the Purex car, just starting to give us dirty air. As soon as we're within a second of the car in front, and Engel decided to back out. But that's an aggressive late change, because now he's going to be compromised onto the straight. You're going to be 5-10 kilometers an hour down already as we hit the start line, and that's the decision he's making to try and get a clear lap.
Got a couple of teams under investigation for the red flag procedure as number 12 Ferrari there turns through. This is the car that Rafael Duran out of the Ferrari Challenge and Fabrizio Crestani are drafted into to join the South African driver David Perel. You've got number 74, the Castle Ferrari, also now with Dustin Blattner at the wheel, pressing on. The order continuing to shuffle. And it's going to shuffle, of course, in part because of now a number of cars having different drivers. Fascinating to see as well how many new names there are coming onto the entry list this weekend, which is in part toe in water for next year. And right now, Farfus, Niederhauser, Rovera, Gunon, Engel and Kolb is the top 6. Mirko Bortolotti 7th. Adam Smalley at the wheel of number 58 McLaren is up to 8th, and that's the Rover Racing Garage. You're looking at Jesse Krohn there next to the bearded mechanic, and he's going to take over in due course, but right now that is the garage from which the fastest car in the session comes.
Yeah, and we're seeing phenomenally peaky lap times on the data I'm seeing. I'm seeing a 2-second drop-off from the car's fastest laps on that overall scoreboard to kind of their consistent pace. And Barcelona historically has been hard on tyres, like I said earlier. It had a really nice period where it was resurfaced 4 years ago, where it was a very dark tarmac, and suddenly it found a load of pace and it offered a load more grip, and it would let the tyre last. But now it's gone back to this grey colour. Suddenly it seems to be low grip, and I think that's why we're seeing the cars working so hard, having lots of slides all the time, and obviously that works the tyre more and more. You see that late aggressive box from Farfus, currently leading, and this is the point I'm saying, is still flat out. Hit the brakes as you go under the gantry. Got to get it down to 50 Ks on the line. Slightly early there for Farfus, and the drivers will be graded on that. They'll be marked to make sure they're not losing any excess time on the way in. The team's so data driven, and all of that data also available to race control, and that's why they can see if you're speeding at a moment's notice. Looks like the Grasser team there waiting for their car in pit lane. Is also difficult for the team sometimes to spot their car, so you will see driver IDs and car ID lights as well, just so you can see 2 Tresor Audis running side by side. That purple light flashing on the rear bumper is a reminder, showing there's a bronze driver there, and Lukovic was very deep there. I thought he was going to hit the side of his teammate for a split moment there, but was okay in the end. And again, just an illustration of these bronze drivers, yes, phenomenally fast, but that 1 to 2 seconds off just means they never find their rhythm. They have to go off the racing line. They get dirt on their tyres, they lose a bit more time, and then it's a downward spiral, and that's where the bronzes have to sometimes get their elbows out and say, enough's enough. I need to run my own line here. And again, Darren is just trying to find some space, it would seem. The team would probably advise him. There is a gap after that Nordique Mercedes, but before the number 3 car, the Get Speed camo car, there is at the moment a 100-meter gap. The problem is, as soon as you go for that gap, everyone else is trying to do the same thing, and it suddenly evaporates. But the Paradine team there, I think, just trying to help out to find a space.
66 Audi, another from the Tepto team. You've got number 63, Mirko Bortolotti, now under investigation for not following the race director's instructions. So that red flag, innocuous as it looked, might well have done a bit of harm to some of the team's plans for the weekend here. There is Alfred Renauer in number 92, the Herbert Porsche. And that car, we know he's going to be competitive in its class, even if not fighting for outright honours. And that's something else, of course, about GT racing that the teams have to think about, and that is sacrificing an overall position or using a pro driver for a class result. There's so many platinum drivers now in bronze, aren't they, helping the customers to achieve good results. That Herbert Porsche tends to go like clockwork, doesn't it? Very, very experienced Porsche squad.
Yeah, they got a strong entry as well, haven't they, for the IGTC race at Indianapolis next weekend. And I think they'll be on for a good result there across the 2 cars they've got entered. And yeah, phenomenally strong team. Have raced against them for many years. Very fair on and off track as well. As we look at another Porsche, the Unix car here, Mathieu Detry, the UAE-based Belgian. Worked with Mathieu for the last 3 years. Lovely, lovely guy on and off the track as well. But has really come into some form now and is working hard, and look like they've got a busy season next year as well. Him and Fabien Defay already announcing a deal with WRT for Asia Le Mans Series.
Which is something else to add to the WRT programme. And of course, Asian Le Mans has an SRO link because the SRO Motorsports Group looks after the GT3 element, which gave it a huge chunk of the grid last season.
Yeah, GT3, it just gets stronger every year. The grid's size, the grid availability for these drivers and teams keeps getting better, and I think it's supported in the best possible way. The balance of performance has just been so tight this time over the season, hasn't it? There's been times where cars have been strong, and that's nature of the circuit, the driver and performance. But to have 10 different manufacturers, all I think legitimately able to vie for wins, is a phenomenal job by the SRO group.
Absolutely right. 888 Porsche in the meantime heads up towards the timing line. Mathieu Detry at the wheel, goes through. Bastien Bus joining the crew in that car. We know from IGTC as well as Super Cup how good he is. There's 33, which is ready to go. That car waiting for wheels to be put on, and then the 2Cs are on car now with Chris Lulham installed behind the wheel. Can venture back into the session.
Yeah, Harry King finally kicks out of his car. He's being dethroned. Interesting to see what tyres they put on. We were talking off air, weren't we, David? What would you do strategy-wise with your tyres? There's basically a new set of tyres that could be used in this session or pre-quali. And there's 2 ways of looking at it. Pre-quali, like you said, David, more important because if qualifying was cancelled, then pre-quali taken. But then I think this session is more akin to qualifying time of day tomorrow, so maybe you'd get more data from that. That's the flip that the teams will have to make. But I expect these lap times to fall, because I think half the grid will put tyres on towards the end of this session.
Now there, number 222, another 2C's car, and Tom Levin, that we've got used to seeing driving for Elite, brought into that car to join new British GT champions Cian Jewis and Charles Dawson, who carved their way through to win the championship last year. They've looked really, really strong in that car all season in Britain, haven't they?
Yeah, they really have. They've been the standout performers, and they've won the championships. That tallies up. But Dawson especially has been one of the fastest bronzes out there, so it'll be interesting to see how he goes this weekend on the global stage. They've had Ben Barnacote in that car for the majority of the season. Ben unavailable this weekend, so they've had their driver change slightly tweaked, haven't they? But brought in the equally rapid Jewis as his replacement.
Yeah, we know that Kian Joris is rapid. We know that Tom Leben is quick. Last year's GT4 European Series champion.
I think as well, 2Cs are starting to produce one of the fastest. Mercedes as well. The Anglo-Bahraini team have done a phenomenal job getting on top of that Mercedes, which I think is one of the hardest cars to make fast as well.
Now let's head to the pit lane. We were looking at Jesse Krohn, Augusto Farfus out of that car, quickest, and with Alex.
Coming off the back of a very, very strong Nürburgring, here you are, and you've pulled out a very nice free practice session. What have you learned from that stint so far?
Well, I think Barcelona is definitely a difficult track for us. Those low grip tracks, it's definitely not an easy ground for the BMWs. We've been working hard since yesterday. I mean, this momentarily P1, it's great to see that somehow we are on the mix, but it doesn't mean a lot. Happy to be there. I think there is still a lot of work to be done. The heat will not help us, so our car tends to get more edgy to drive with the temperature, so there is some homework to be done. Engineers are working. I think we have an idea what could be the direction, but it's still a long way to go.
What's the realistic target for you guys this weekend? What would a good weekend mean to you?
Well, I would
look like?
I would not have come to Barcelona if I would not aim for P1. I think there is another 60 cars with the same target this weekend. So I think if we run a clean race, have seen these GT World Challenge races, they're very tough. A lot happened during those 3 hours, so we need to optimize the car for quality to have a kind of a good spot for the race and try to maximize the tire degradation. Tire degradation here is going to be difficult for all the cars. So I think those who manage to master and to find the right setup trick to minimize and to maximize the performance during the long run will have an advantage, and that's what we are here for.
Augusto Farfus, Intercontinental GT Challenge champion back in 2020, and he will be off to the Indianapolis 8 Hours next weekend. So you clock up your air miles if you're an in-demand GT driver, bouncing from continent to continent, week in, week out. And for some drivers, of course, this year, there were those 3 24-hour races in 3 successive weeks, which was a bit of a killer for some, wasn't it? Now, this session is with about 1 hour and 3 minutes still to go. Talk about great sounding cars. The Ford Mustang is another of them. And here, number 64 is in the hands of Jan Mardenborough. And it's also the fastest in terms of an overall top speed, 273 kilometres an hour, run by the Haupt Racing team, which you could argue, Joe, has made progress, but perhaps not as much as anticipated with that car.
Yeah, I'd agree with that one. We've seen glimpses, haven't we, in the sprint series. It's almost been harder for them. They were having a strong Spa 24-hour, then had that almost mysterious oil leak. Do you remember it was covering its own windscreen towards the end of the race, and they had to retire after a relatively strong running. It's a car that's been going quickly across the globe, so a team like Haupt Racing team will get on top of it, but I would agree they maybe need the winter as a reset, take all the data, everything they've learned over the season, and then come back regrouped next season even stronger.
There are some very good brains within Hubert Haupt's team. Really, it's led these days by Sean Breslin, who used to be at Black Falcon, and when Hubert Haupt bought effectively the good bits of a struggling team and made it into the Haupt Racing team, Sean Breslin went with him. So, you know, they've proved their worth, and to walk away from Mercedes AMG to go and operate that Ford program, they must see something in it to want to do that.
Yeah, and it's obviously a commitment by Ford. Ford coming back into motorsport properly as well, doing it as a factory effort. So, yeah, expect that car to be stronger next season. 2 of the Garage 59 cars running together. Joseph Loken, the 59 car here in shot, has had a really strong first season in GT racing. We've said it a few times. McLaren have really raved about him. Tom Fleming in the sister car there, overtaking him, has been really strong as well at times this year. Obviously coming across from Ferrari background, more Fleming, Ferrari Challenge, then in their GT3 car, now in the McLaren. Huge snap of oversteer there as these tyres are taking a pounding. Tyre degradation, we've said, is big, and it's evident here, isn't it, with the cars moving around.
Yeah, Tom Fleming, another highly regarded driver. part of the BRDC Rising Stars programme to look after young British talent, and massive bite of curb that he took there, which is partly why the oversteer came. That sort of unsettled the car, didn't it? But got away with that.
You can see the rubber being laid down from the rear tyres, and on the driver union front, I would argue the car just needs to be better at the landing. The amount of curb was okay. As it took its set, it had a secondary bounce up, so that needs to be a damper change potentially. Take some of the rebound out of the car, so how the damper interacts with giving back the energy. Maybe too aggressive, and they just need to slow that down. But all these cars, there's so much data and sensors on them. They'll be able to see that and be able to make a quick tweak potentially if Fleming agrees with my feedback there.
Loris Spinelli currently at the wheel of number 163. Somebody else who's been drafted back into the ranks this weekend. Spinelli has really made a name for himself in Lamborghinis in Super Trofeo, but very, very rapid indeed. He replaces Marco Mappelli in that car. These days, rather busy racing in America in the IMSA sports car scene, but he joins Sandy Mitchell and Franck Pereira. That's a really good makeup of drivers, isn't it?
Really is. And VSR have done a strong job, and a fresher livery as well this season. I must say, I much prefer this more white background car, as we can see. On the Ferrari's getting out of the way well there, and Spinelli, one of those drivers who used to race against him, and it's just always so aggressive. Didn't matter if it was a free practice, a quali or a race, you always knew what you were going to get with him. And he used to take it as well as he gave it, to be fair to the Italian. But just the body language of that car, you can tell he's an angry man.
But very quick. And Adam Christodoulou is another very quick driver in the Nordique Mercedes. So that car in the hands of the former Nürburgring 24-hour winner. We don't see enough of Adam in GT World Challenge Europe these days, but again, he's another of those plug-and-play drivers. You put him into a Mercedes AMG in whatever team, whatever championship, whatever venue, and he delivers.
Yeah, and he's a great corporate driver as well. Mercedes pay him, and he just gets put into these customer teams, and Nordique Racing trying to find their feet in this competitive championship, and he won't badmouth any element of it. He just cracks on with the job and plays a very good political game as a Mercedes AMG factory driver.
Joining Yuichi Nakayama and Eduardo Liberati in that car. And it was rather knocked about at Spa, wasn't it? They've gone through a number of different drivers this season, but Adam Christodoulou's experience will be very useful for the team. So we're into the second hour as you look at another of the Mercedes AMGs that comes out of Get Speed. 911 Porsche is Richard Lietz, Alex Malikin and Thomas Preining. It was Richard Lietz at the wheel when I last looked, and the multiple Le Mans class winner is now up to 6 class wins in GT cars at Le Mans. He's the man behind the wheel. Richard Lietz then, always very rapid. And still in demand. I think he said at the start of the season he wasn't really expecting Porsche to ring him up, but the brand did and has put him into not only a WEC program but a GT World Challenge Europe program. He was in Asian Le Mans at the start of the season, and he's still there able to deliver. In fact, Alex Malikin is now being shown on the Lumi rank as having taken over, so they've sneaked a pit stop out of that car in the last few moments, and Malikin takes over. He's a man behind Pure Racing. He's somebody else that's done a massive amount of mileage, really, in, what, 5 years, if that, of racing.
Yeah, I remember bursting onto the motorsport scene originally with James Dorlin, the British driver, was his coach, and yeah, he just suddenly discovered motorsport, it felt like.
Yeah, he came into the Cayman series, didn't he, when there weren't many Caymans on the grid in the UK, yeah.
And then he just decided racing's my life, and he's devoted himself to it, and that is a common story with successful businessmen. They like the competitive nature of motorsport and everything it's got to offer, and almost the sadistic pleasure of it. There's only one winner and there's 60 cars, so the amount of bad weekends far outweigh the good ones, but that seems to keep the drivers coming back in a strange roundabout fashion.
This is Sai Sanjay in the CSA Racing McLaren. Sai Sanjay, one of the drivers in the sport, managed by Jules Gounon. So interesting that Jules has seen something in Sai Sanjay, who we saw in British GT last season, didn't we, in a GT4 McLaren. And with all due deference to all involved, he didn't stand out, but clearly Jules Gounon has seen something, and Sai Sanjay has actually acquitted himself pretty well in GT3 machinery this year on new circuits, as much as new car, new team, new co-driver. So he scrubbed up quite nicely.
Yeah, and new car to CSA as well. They've done a phenomenal job at Paul Ricard, the first round of the year, which feels like a lifetime ago, but also a blink of an eye in equal measures. They were very much on the pace at their home track. And yeah, Sai Sanjay, like I said, managed by Jules Gounon. It must be a strange relationship when they find each other on track. And I don't know which way round you should yield, really. Gounon being the manager, but his client racing against him.
Ask Fernando Alonso and Gabriel Bortoleto how it works. I think it's a similar situation, isn't it? You were talking earlier on about the Mathieu Dietrich Fabien Duffier combination. That Porsche has been sitting out for 10 minutes for track limit abuses. This is number 111, James Kell. And he's another driver who comes here as an outsider for a championship, because the CSA McLaren currently sits third in gold. They're very much on the back foot as far as points are concerned, but it is mathematically possible. And James Kell also, who's done a lot of miles. He's done a successful job this year in International GT Open as well, hasn't he? He's just quietly got on with the job.
Yeah, and while we're talking about managers, his manager, Phil Bennett, is a unique character, isn't he? I think it's the politest way of describing our dear Phil. And Phil, one of the good guys of motorsport, though, not one of these managers that just takes the money and smiles. He gives it pretty hard to James, and I do think that's why James's performance has stepped up somewhat, is because he has got the very Victorian strictness of Phil Bennett behind the scenes.
Who was, for a time on the British Touring Car grid, came out of the club racing ranks through Renault Spiders, and has been an inveterate enthusiast. Number 60, Lamborghini, another of the VSR fleet you're looking at right now as we have a look up and down the entry list. And this is the car that is Michele Beretta, Alessio De Leda, and returning to GT World Challenge Europe, Mattia Michelotto. And it is Alessio De Leda at the wheel right now of that Lamborghini. The car is 55th in the times, but as we often say in this session, how much do you want to read into that? Because the former single-seater racer at the wheel not really chasing a lap time necessarily. Number 15 BMW is currently 58th. Marcello Tomassoni at the wheel of the BMW Italia Ceccato racing entry that he shares with Federico Malvestiti and Clio Cup champion Felice Gialmini. That car goes through. Another that runs in bronze. And you can see the 60-strong entry and who's behind the wheel right now, which includes Sean Galisle back in the 991 BMW after a stint early on in the session. Pit lane pretty busy, circuit pretty busy, and the track is being added to there by Treble 7, Al-Fazal Al-Zubair, the Omani driver coming back out on track. This is Loris Cabiru for the Boots and VDS Mercedes team. That car currently 7th, in fact improved on his last lap.
Yeah, it's going to be an important weekend for their championship, isn't it? It's tight in the silver battle. And I just, again, feel like a team form-wise, Boots and VDS have really upped their game in the second half of this season. Both with this car and the Pro car, the 9 car, has got faster and faster. So they're finding form at the right time of the season.
Yeah, absolutely right. As it gets to championship deciding weekend, do you come here as a driver, as a team, with a different mindset? You know, it's on the one hand just another race weekend, but if you're fighting for a championship, surely it's got to add a bit of pressure and perhaps affect the way that you as a driver go about the weekend?
Yeah, both. And you try and treat it like another race, but when the points are there in black and white of where you're going to finish in the championship, of course you have to change tact to see what you need to do for the championship. And sometimes a very liberating experience. I was actually racing here for another championship, and there was a championship on the cards, and it was a long shot, and I just remember being in my stint just going, well, I've got to win, and to win I've got to push, and if I crash that'll happen. And it was almost like a peace at one with yourself, and it's quite a nice feeling, able just to throw these GT3 cars around and not really caring if you write the thing off if there's a championship on the table. And that's why we see so much drama at these championship finales.
Is that a better position to be in than, if you like, thinking, well, I can give away a place, and just keeping out of trouble and banking points and almost driving on eggshells? Yeah,
and when you start to tense up, the car feels it. Your arms suddenly don't have any floppiness to it. So all that rigidity straight through the wheel, and the car gets nervous because you're nervous. And then, like you're saying, it's a downward spiral from there. It's like a rallycross track on the exit of T12 now. And this is only an hour and 10 of free practice. So that will be something the drivers need to pay attention to, and also be worried about punctures there potentially. The gravel we've seen historically very sharp here and can slice the tyre.
So Sean Gallile through once more there in the red BMW. Still the fastest time is for Mercedes. Fabian Schiller having set it, 1 minute 40.793. Number 17, he's taken the car over from Jules Gounon. This is another newcomer, Rafael Duran, who joins the Ferrari ranks for the weekend. And Rafael Duran, who comes out of Ferrari Challenge, although he has done a little bit of GT racing in the Iberian-based GT Winter Series that takes place in January, February, March of the season. But the first time we've seen him in World Challenge Europe, so that's going to be interesting to see how he fares over the course of the weekend. The number 80 Porsche that Patrick Kolb crashed, still the fastest in bronze, and perhaps remarkably, still 6th overall. It shows, you could argue, how of little interest so far people have in chasing times, because, you know, the fact that it has been there for the best part of 45 minutes to an hour and no one has really displaced it. It was a good time early on, and other people not getting near it, so they're concentrating on setup and race runs, perhaps more than a time.
Yeah, saved a bit of mileage, I guess, being in the barrier. Probably kept 300 kilometres or so of the hour and a half they're going to miss. Here's the other HRT car, the white and blue car, 65 Andriolo behind the wheel. And again, balance looking okay for this big-looking car. It is very lightweight, though. They've stripped so much out at Ford Performance, so it's light on its feet, it's good on its tyres. The old American philosophy, no replacement for displacement. The 5.4-litre V8 behind it, offering it that very good straight-line speed performance as well.
Comes up then towards the line. Romain Andriolo goes by, and that Mustang furthering the development all the time. Had an improvement from Maximilian Powell up the order, getting a super slow-mo shot here of Tom Fleming, who runs just a little bit wide, skims the gravel and flicks it into the air. If that were at normal speed, you barely notice anything, but that super slow-mo shot is a fantastic one, and you can see just the effect of so close to the gravel, what it can do.
Yeah, the sticky Pirelli tyre hugging the gravel and then releasing it and bringing it onto the circuit. Obviously the diffuser, the air just whipping it onto the circuit. So it always feels like the gravel should go outwards as you hit it, but it does get dragged onto the track, and that's why we're seeing so much of it there on the XT12.
And as you made the point early on, do that over 3 hours of the race. Punctures are going to be a possibility if you end up running over that, because those gravelly stones did look rather sharp, didn't they? 22 Porsche up the inside line there. That's Larry ten Voorde returning to the series, multiple Porsche champion, whether it's been in domestic championships or Super Cup. And this year's Super Cup champion, Alessandro Giretti, joining him and Ian Shinguven in the Schumacher CLRT car, Giretti's debut in World Challenge Europe. So that's going to be one to watch, isn't it? Number 22, and it's 34th at the times right now. That was a car that started the season reasonably well, getting third place in Paul Ricard, but has struggled a little bit since then.
That was an interesting body language move between the Comp2 cars. Jess Hawkins in now the leading one. Seemed to have a bit of a swipe at her teammate down the straight into turn 10, and there's the gravel there. I quite like this. It's going to be a bit of a joker lap towards the end of the race. Larry ten Voorde, the Flying Dutchman, dispatching the two Comp2 cars, the other one being Nicolai Bart. Here's another fast Dutchman in a Porsche, this time Maurice Schöring through Rutronic in the sister car. So at 96 that we see at the leading edge and leading onto the pit straight behind.
Yeah, 97, still trying to chip its way up the order, but getting there. The sister car's now got Sven Miller in the wheel. 48th is where Maurice Schöring is in the car shared by Antares Al. And look, Hertog, big slide there from Al Khalifi as he comes out of turn 3. Abdullah Ali Khalifi gets away with that. Shows how hard they're pushing.
Yeah, that car's 60th. So you go, oh, okay, they're having a nice Saturday morning, right? They're just cruising around as he's got 180 degrees of opposite lock at the start of the lap, showing again how competitive this championship is. Yes, they might be last, but they're not certainly hanging around, and they're pushing as hard as that Santalot run Audi will carry them right now.
Yet another new circuit as well. in a way, it's been a good idea to bring Julian Hansers into that car because he's got experience and he can at least say, okay, we need to be doing this at this corner. Otherwise, with 3 complete rookies to European racing, every venue is a step into the unknown. So at least there's some data, some knowledge and some assistance he can bring. With now 46 minutes still on the clock. Sean Galal sitting at the back of this little queue. Fabian Schiller then, the fastest from Jesse Krohn, who's taken over from Augusto Farfus. You're looking there at number 34, which is the Valkenhorst Aston Martin. Christian Cronjes, David Pittard, Enrique Chavez at the wheel. Enrique sort of rebuilding his reputation a little bit after that accident in Superpole at Spa, which put the car out of the race. And I think he still feels the pain of that. Mentioned Spa in his presence, and you can hear him groan. It really didn't help his reputation, that. And the team rallied round, but it, of course, was a massive blow. Refueling goes on for 1-1-2 before the CSA McLaren is dispatched back into the session. That car brought in by Sai Sanjay. And I think it's time for Antares Au maybe to get on board. Maurice Schöring brings 97 in. We've had a stint out of Luke Hartog. We've had a stint out of Maurice Schöring. And yeah, the smiling Antares Au, the Hong Kong driver, is ready to be next into the car.
I wonder if he would have been smiling after the penalty he received. You can see the fuel going in, the portion to the bonnet, effectively, the fuel cell tucked beneath the driver's feet, nearly underneath that dashboard. All cars have to be connected for 44 seconds during the race for their refueling. So actually, as a driver change, it's one of the more relaxed races. They've effectively got that 44 seconds to do the full driver change, which can be done in as little as 15 seconds when needed.
The number 30 BMW, another of the WRT cars. Etienne Shelley at the wheel of it. His father, Eric Shelley, was a very quick Formula 3 driver going back a good few decades. That seems to have been the car that's copped all the bad luck at WRT this year. But when it goes well. And Etienne Shelley, we've seen in GT4, haven't we, in Toyota Supras and the like. Super slow-mo replay here of Daniel Ali for Stella, going a bit wide, and then Tom Fleming again in the McLaren, same part of the racetrack. And this time he goes even further through the stones, showers the Aston Martin and Nicky Team behind him, and then gets back on track. But yes, keep on doing that. You drag it all onto the circuit, and then you end up affecting tyres, both your own and other people's.
The British love a Spanish beach, don't they? And that's not helping our reputation on the Iberian Peninsula. But he's getting to a point now where he's so far into the gravel, he must have dirt on those left-hand tyres as he chucks it into 13, and it will start to be detrimental to him, and the risk of a puncture for himself going up ever more.
So Daniel Ali presses on in that Stella Chevrolet, and 43 minutes are on the clock right now as the drivers, in some cases, have their first run of the day. Some of the teams thinking about lap times, some thinking about setup. And we've got Mercedes, AMG, BMW, Porsche, Ferrari as the top 4. So 4 different brands in the top 4. Sebastian Urgaard you're looking at right now in another of those Trezor Attempto Audis.
Yeah, quite a lot of blanking on the front radiator of that Audi, and non-symmetrical as well, and it's the brake ducting. So obviously deciding they've got different brake temps left to right. You do find that the inner brake gets hotter on the way into a corner, more energy in it. So maybe they're feeling they've just got to blank the left side more because they're not getting an even distribution there. Driver change going on at Rover Racing, and driver getting installed by the mechanic. Seatbelts, radio, window net, all done as we look at another BMW, this time WRT, needing a slight break into the last corner, riding on board with that car now all over the apex curve. We tend just to see a lift at the last corner, so I wonder if that was just Ugo setting up a lap, making sure he gets a good exit, but already traffic in front of him coming out of pit lane, and is that going to compromise him? Looks like it's the 222 cars, and when you're on an outlap, the onus is on you as a driver to get out of the way. This is where we flow into 3. This is where we saw the Porsche go off earlier on the barrier on the left there. all okay now, letting the car flow out wide. You can see the speed trace building, hard on the brakes, down to third gear normally here for turn 4, all the way down to 99 k's, hard on the throttle, build the speed up, drag it over to the right here, and down to second gear now, all the way down to about 75, 80 k's here, bang on 75, open the steering up, all the way up to the gravel, and just monitoring track limits. These are the curbs we've been seeing cars bounce over on the inside here on the left and then get the snap of oversteer. The BMW riding it well, even taking a bit of the yellow sausage curb on the right. Fast through here, getting down 140, just keeping the minimum up higher than most maximum speed limits on a freeway through that corner. Now the slowest corner of the lap, and the 2C's car does in fact get out of the way very nicely for Hugo de Wilde here. Into sector 3, looks like we've got a Porsche in front with a huge snap of oversteer there. It's the Rutronic car of Lucas Al. We've backed out of it now, but the problem is you've got Al in front who's a bronze, so Hugo de Wilde knows he's got to get a big gap because his speed delta will be 2 to 3 seconds higher than that Porsche, and luckily for him he has got a gap, and we've then backed up into the 2C's cars behind us, and that is the concertina effect of trying to find a space here around the tight 4.6 kilometre Barcelona circuit.
What's interesting in this is that we've got an increasing number of 10-minute stop-and-go penalties for track limit offences. I was looking at some cars early on thinking how precise people were being, and yet there is an increasing number now of people being given stop-goes. The 33 King, Lull and Vermeulen Aston has been given one. The Pittard, Cronjes, Chavez, Aston has been given one. The Antares Au, Luke Hertog, Maurice Schering, Porsche has been given a 10-minute stop-go. And there are drivers' names in that list that you wouldn't anticipate to be doing things like that, would you?
Yeah, I think it again just shows you how low grip it is. As you see Sven Muller getting out of the car and Piccarello getting in. Rutronic pretty set with their procedure here. Each driver 40 minutes in both this 97 and the 96 car. Skates in because they will just go to 45 degrees as procedure allows them. Sven Muller now giving a bit of feedback to Piccarello on the car. And when we've seen that Porsche, it's been pretty loose. Piccarello would have been watching, I'm sure, too. So we'll have a pretty good predetermined idea of how that car is.
Meanwhile, you've got there the Dynamique Porsche doing a bit of dive bombing on the inside. Mikael Pedersen at the wheel, getting up past the number 42 BMW, the Century Run car. That is Jared Werberski, Will Moore and Max Janssen. Will Moore at the wheel of it. He's had a good season, Will Moore, hasn't he? Coming out of British GT and then GT4.
Yeah, and not surprised. I know I've mentioned it a few times, but I sat next to Will on his first ever day on track, and he was phenomenal.
Yeah, but in spite of that.
Yeah, exactly. He's done so well, hasn't he, to get rid of those shackles.
Yeah, right.
Will Moore is just one of those, a bit like we were talking about Smelly earlier, just an aggressive driver. And now he's found the limit of where that aggression needs to be to stop throwing the car at the wall. He's phenomenally fast over a lap, and that's why we're seeing some great form. And I think Century as well, delivering a very fast BMW GT3 car to them.
Louis Machiels here for the AF Corsa Francorchamps Motors team, sharing with his son Jeff, and with the retirement of Andrea Bertolini, Tommaso Mosca being brought back into the car. And Louis Machiels has been a stalwart GT racer for many, many seasons. Jeff Machiels, his son, watches on as the clock ticks on down.
Can't be a much better feeling than racing with your son or racing with your father, and an intimate relationship anyway, but then heighten that by racing in the world's most competitive GT3 championship in the world must give them plenty to talk about over their Sunday dinner.
And right now, Louis Machiels sitting on the back of 93, another of the Ferraris, which has got Marco Pulcini at the wheel. Driver change goes on at CSA. That's the number 111 entry. So that was brought in by James Kell. And Arthur Rougier and Simon Gachet, the other two drivers. I think it was Simon Gachet getting in. We will check. CSA have had a really good season, of course. It's coming on the back of a very badly broken Audi in Saudi Arabia at the end of last year's endurance season, switching to McLaren. And Arthur Rougier is the sort of player manager looking after the team as well as back behind the wheel, going really well.
Yeah, and again, a front end adjustment here. That's most probably the front anti-roll bar. We spoke about the rear anti-roll bar earlier, didn't we, for parity? The front one now on that McLaren looks like it just went a click softer, watching the mechanic of the hands, trying to allow the weight of that car to manipulate itself easier to allow the grip. The negative is it can fall over itself at high speed and become quite snappy on the front axle. So they're just going to get a read on that change.
Laurens Leclerc, the Alpine champion for the Santalop squad, goes through. That car quite a long way down the order at the moment, 44th in the entry that he shares with Rhys Gold and Ivan Klimenko. 26 runs in silver, so you've got Rhys Gold in silver. Number 35 currently with Oliver Söderström at the wheel of the Valkenhorst Aston, another of the cars that comes from the Silver Cup, shared with Romain Larue and Mathieu Villagomez, who started the session in that car. Valkenhorst having made that switch away from BMW, with whom it had great success, to Aston.
Talking of switching, I wonder where the Audi teams are going. There's obviously quite a few Audis on the grid, and that's going to change next season. Just wonder where they're at. This Lamborghini Huracan is replaced softly next year, is what I understand, by its replacement car. There will be 10 chassis or so available on the global stage. So expect to see a hybrid of Lamborghinis next year between this Huracan and its replacement.
They'll be sort of peppering different teams and championships, won't they? As you look at Gerhard Tveraza, who's come back into the Grasser ranks, and a further driver change done, because this car would have had Ivan Ekelchik as one of the drivers. He has been unreachable by the team, was how it was phrased in the stewards bulletin. So the team can't get hold of him. He's not coming for personal reasons. They can't find out whether he's going to come or not. So they've had to replace him with Isaac Tutumla Lopez, and under force majeure the stewards have said okay, but there's not really a lot that can be done if the team can't find him on the phone. Maxime Martin, meantime, for the number 9 Boots and VDS Mercedes AMG team, sharing with Mikael Grenier and Maxi Götz. He was a driver you were last looking at, and that car is only 24th. But again, you read into this what you will, because we're not thinking about times.
Yeah, we've got a glimpse of the Get Speed car actually holding up the sister Kessel car. That car's gone fastest. That popped in a 40.7, so a more representative lap time. Here is Nicola Rossi in this wild liveried Kessel car. We got first glimpse of it, didn't we? It Spa 24 Hour. The drivers getting their nicknames on in relative nicety, some relatively offensive ones there, which is always nice to see too. And that Kessel car has been very quick at times as well.
And this is another Get Speed car. Aaron Walker, Tanat Satrantirakul and Tom Calenda. It is Tanat Satrantirakul at the wheel of the car. He, one of the drivers last year that was the silver champion within endurance when he shared with Colin Kurasani. Aaron Walker won the Silver Cup in last year's 24 Hours of Spa, and turns then that car in the hands of Tanat Satrantirakul through the lap. Long way down in the times, but they will no doubt come alive when we get to qualifying tomorrow morning. Satrantirakul, who started off in GT racing in Asia, both in World Challenge and Carrera Cup, but he's also raced in things like the Euro Formula Open in Europe, so returning to European circuits last year. Session has got just over half an hour to go. Are we expecting anybody to go for a new set of tyres at the end and think qualifying laps, or will that come in pre-qualifying where it's a bit more important?
Yeah, I still think we're going to see 5 or 6 cars put some times in that are competitive. The 9 car leaving there, couldn't see if they were new tyres, but the way he pulled away, I would say not. The new tyre, so peaky as a driver, you just want to tiptoe around, and that isn't what the 9 car did. They just lit up the rears as that gets back up to speed, and you can see the cars flashing their headlights, just trying to say we need to come past. And yeah, let's see what the lap times do as we see Sandy Mitchell now aboard the VSR car, winner last weekend out at Donington British GT.
Just going back to tyres, the tyre is the tyre, as in there's not a qualifying tyre and a race tyre. So if you're talking about them being peaky, okay, that's relevant in qualifying, but it's going to be the same, therefore, isn't it, in a driver's stint? You know, they're going to have the best of them fairly early and then need to manage for the rest of the hour, yes?
Yes, slightly less peaky in the race because the driver has to use their quali tyre, so they've already done their maximum peak.
Right.
They would have done a minimum of 2, if not 3 or 4 laps. So from qualifying to the end of qualifying, the first 4 or 5 laps, there's 2 seconds from the fastest to the end of that lap. Then in the race, I expect that to be 50%, so probably a second pace difference in the tyre. But as the fuel comes off, that then negates the second, so you don't get the lap time peak so much because of that fuel factor of roughly 105 kilos of fuel to let these cars do 65 minutes.
Tom Fleming in number 188 McLaren, Matteo Cairoli in 48 Mercedes AMG. So most of the teams now giving each driver a stint, and that very distinctive livery that the Winward man filter car has. Is it going to go to the box? I think it is. So a little bit of work done and put it in the garage. That means more people can go and work on the car. There's another of the Get Speed fleet of Mercedes AMGs. That was the one that we had Carol Bash in at the very start, and he has taken it over again.
Yeah, he's done the lion's share of the driving, hasn't he, there? And again, just their lead driver aboard the number 3 car. You've got Anton Bartone, who's obviously the main funding of that car, and Yannick Mettler, again a quick driver, but Carol Bash has probably just got the leading edge on him for pace, so he'll just be getting his eye in. And the Polish driver has been busy over the past few seasons and is, I think, starting to elevate his status and is starting to get more and more drives.
Yeah, I mean, he was very good in Super Trofeo Europe, which is where he really made his name. That then kind of pigeonholed him into doing Italian GT racing, but a bit like we touched on earlier on, he wants to spread his wings in terms of the teams and the manufacturers and therefore the championships that he can do. But he's a very quick driver, Carol Bash, who's somebody else that, because he's sort of, if I say stuck, that's not quite the word I'm looking for, but it'll do with other co-drivers. He can't necessarily shine. His results are dependent on the people he's with.
Yeah, and again, I keep saying it, but another aggressive driver. I remember racing here, actually, and I was on pole position, believe it or not, and he was in third place behind me, and he was hitting me over the start line, did all the damage to the diffuser, and I made a really good joke that was lost in translation. I was like, I get your surname's Bash, but you don't need to do it before the race has even started. And there was just silence, and I was a bit upset about that. But you get it, because his surname's Bash, and he was bashing Will Moore coming into pit lane here, slowing the car down well. And we spoke about Will earlier, and I've been really impressed with him. And his job this weekend really is to try and help his teammate Max Jensen win the overall GT World Challenge Championship. It can't need more explaining, surely, David, even to someone like you with your low IQ.
Bash. Oh, yeah. 29 minutes on the clock. The Joe Osborne Joke podcast is downloadable now, by the way. The book's remaindered. We've got still Fabian Schiller's Mercedes as the fastest car, but he has boxed, and there's possibly going to be another driver change now. We've had Jules Gounon do a brief stint, so I think it means that Lukas Stoltz will be required to go and do a few laps before the very end, see how the order is. Real nice mix, isn't there, outside of that top 6 of the classes. You've got the top 5 all out of, if you like, the Pro Cup, the overall contest. Then you've got a bronze from a silver, from a pro, from a gold, from another pro, and it's all peppered up and down the order, which is really intriguing. 33 back out again after its 10-minute stop and go. And Harry King back at the wheel of it. I was about to offer you Thierry Vermeulen for now, but no, Harry King, whose family are all here to cheer him on and see whether there's going to be Gold Cup Championship successes at the end of the weekend. Harry King back behind the wheel.
And again, just running in the dirty air, that Rover BMW in front. And again, that's where a confident driver, not worried about lap time, can actually go, you know what, it's worth me staying in the dirty air of this other potentially race-winning car. Just in case this is the race, where can I overtake a BMW? What's the dirty air like? How close can I keep? Does it bring the front tyre pressures up as I'm running in the dirty air? As another driver change going on there, and Twayser now out of the car, the team doing a tyre pressure adjustment, and as these tyres go longer into stint, the pressure comes up, and the teams will have a set target pressure that will always try and bleed to. Go too low, you get tyre failures, and there is a minimum that Pirelli stipulate. Go too high, and you simply just lose performance. So there is always a trade-off there, and the team diving to work inside the car as well. Looks like they're just changing the data card so the data engineer can review the data while this car makes its way back up.
pit lane speeding being looked at in a few cases as the Rover BMW then now drops behind the 2C's Aston. Top speed at turn 9 is Thierry Vermeulen aboard number 33, Alessio Dono, then Dean McDonald, Tom Fleming and Matteo Cairoli. So you've got Aston, Ferrari, McLaren, Mercedes, AMG as the order. Fans of the grandstand overlooking the corner at the end of that back straight down towards turn 10, and then the road starts to climb a little bit up through turn 11, which is a slower corner than you might imagine, and it's a longer corner as well. Short straight from 12 to 13, which is where Harry King turns now. The road drops down the hill. Thankfully, that fiddly chicane consigned to history, so it flows now, the road all the way to the end of the lap.
Yeah, that chicane was the worst bit of motorsport real estate you could drive. It was slow, it was clunky, couldn't overtake. It was obviously put in place, wasn't it, to slow Formula One cars down at 14 after some humongous shunts. And interestingly now, they've just decided the cars won't have a shunt, so they can just go back to a flat-out 14. But as a driver, it's super rewarding and very tricky because it's not flat. It's not just a big lift. It's not just a brake. It's every lap. There's an adjustment of guessing how the car is going to grip, and potentially different with the wind picking up as well in the afternoon here.
You know, it was first brought in really as a few tyre stacks, wasn't it, in 1994 as a reaction to the serious accidents at Imola and Monaco, but then it stayed as a formal chicane. But yes, it was used for some categories and not others. It wasn't used for bikes. It was, as you say, very unpopular, and now thankfully the road flows once more. 25 minutes still to run in this session. Number 32 BMW, we've not really touched much on. Ugo de Wilde had brought the car through its last stint, up to 27th for the Sprint Cup champion team. Louis Pret, whose dad's here as ever, racing in GT2, having won the championship in the AM class in Valencia. And Louis Pret behind the wheel of the McLaren. He's had a good season, and again, showing good pace.
Yeah, has changed his stock, I think, from a good silver driver to either one of the best silver driver or even a gold-rated driver. And to viewers maybe not understanding the terminology of these colours of driver, you have bronze, which are amateurs, silver, which are young professionals, gold, professional paid drivers, and then platinum as a factory driver. And the FIA, the governing body, deciding on the gradings, because these classes all have a different makeup of those gradings, is very important. And it may seem the opposite way round to logic, but as a driver, you want to be the lowest graded driver. That gives you the most opportunity for work. And next year's driver grading is already out and actually staying pretty similar to this year. So no major movers in the driver grade market, it would seem, for 2026. And you can see the Ziggo Tempesta team getting to work. Those tyres going off. Is that because they're going to put a new set on? Driver in dialogue there with the team, talking about potentially balance and the strategy of what's going on. But Marco Piccini there looking slightly frustrated with his body language, I would suggest.
He's had a funny season, hasn't he, being in and out of the car and in and out of the championships. There's the repaired number 80, which has fallen to 7th. Ricardo Fella back out in that car now to see how it feels and what the legacy of the damage is. But that's been a good job by the Lion Speed GP team. And in fairness, it wasn't therefore quite such a big hit by Patrick Korb, was it? Because they have been able to get the car back out.
Yeah, about an hour they lost on the turnaround. Is that an original bumper or is that a new one? We saw it very carefully get placed back on the low loader to try and replace. But let's see what Fella can do now. We've had almost like ebbs and flows of improvement of lap times, haven't we?
Yeah.
We got the start, and then about 30 minutes in, we had another improvement from Farfus. Then we had a flurry from Stoltz, Marciello, Piccarello, Abril, and the Louis Pret car reordering the top 5. And I wonder if we're going to see that again in the remaining 20 minutes, as this 80 Lion Speed car you wouldn't have told was in the barrier an hour ago. As Fella now boxes, maybe just to come and tell the team A is okay, and let's run through our plan, and looking to cycle through the other car, the drivers in the other car. Gabriele Rindone needs to get some laps in. And again, looking at this high shot, which gives us a different illustration. Turn 3 speeds where the cars are now. It is a BMW. It's the sister car to the 777 Almana car we're watching here. Silver car at Lismont. Then it's an Audi, then a Merc, then a Ferrari. Back to this 777 car of Faisal Al Zubair, the Omani driver. You can see all 5 cars within 1 kilometre an hour. So 4 different manufacturers all very, very close through that tricky turn 3, which is the corner where that 80 Porsche went into the barrier about an hour and 10 minutes ago now. And again, with this high up shot, you do lose the gradient, but it gives you a great illustration of corners. So this is the fast turn 9, 160 kilometers an hour through there in qualifying on a new set of tyres, and then the cars are going downhill into the slowest corner of the lap, a second gear hairpin as we now go back, and it's Jens Klingmann aboard the 777 car, which of course will be looking towards the championship come the end of Sunday.
Italian GT champion, an outright race winner in GT World Challenge Europe from bronze, and coming then now down through turn 13 almost up to the end of the lap, and he will take the end of the lap in the pit lane. So he bails with 21 minutes on the clock. Jens Klingmann, another very experienced driver. Go back to what, 2007, and he was winning in Formula BMW, so started off in the single-seater ranks but has made a really good name for himself, and there's barely a GT championship that he's not done over the years.
No, and he's been at BMW a long time. I actually worked with him when the Z4 was out. He came and helped us at AAA Engineering with the car at Snetterton, and I remember his review of Snetterton was not repeatable on broadcast. And, I would agree with him, but I guess going from the Nordschleife to Snetterton is a slight difference of circuit.
Indeed. Looking down from the drone, then you get an idea not just of the circuit, but what's around the circuit, what's in the middle of the circuit, such as the old buildings there, and you can see how all the car parks are full. On the inside, people still arriving. The paddock there, towering over the back of the track as well. So there's a lot of real estate around this circuit, and it's going to get busier tomorrow for main race day here at this Festival de la Velocidad. The paddock absolutely full of teams and transporters with so many different categories in operation this weekend. Jesus Putzo, the event promoter, has this event. He has his historic Spirit of Montjuic event. Also now he promotes an air show not far away, and he and SRO have formed a very good working relationship over the last 10 years of this event. 15th now in the Times is where Eduardo Liberati has put number 611, the Nordique Mercedes, and he's another one that's going to bail right at the end of the session. 19.5 on the clock. 991 Porsche. That's another car that's now been given a 10-minute stop-go penalty for track limit offences. Sorry, 991 BMW. Sean Galile has brought the car in, the Paradigm car.
Garage 59 getting to work again. I appreciate it seems like all I know setup-wise is a roll bar, but that was a rear roll bar change as well. And I think that's the low nature of this circuit. The teams are really chasing, trying to maximise the weight distribution under load of these cars, and the roll bar is the quickest, easiest and almost biggest change. The spring change in these cars can take too long mid-session, so the roll bar can be done in a matter of seconds, and I think that's why we're seeing so many cars using that tool as their adjustment.
The Rutronic Porsche has fallen now to third. It is Alessio Picariello at the wheel of that car as it comes by, and that's the one that's fastest, and it is Luca Stolz now that has taken over aboard number 17.
Yeah, I feel like Stolz has really been the nominated driver this weekend for the 17. He's got the rapid teammates of Schiller and Gunnar. The latter, I think, really been the lead driver this year, but Lucas Stolz, a quiet, well-mannered, an amazing, nice demeanour to him, seems to be the man for the weekend aboard this 17 car. And you do get it as a driver. Some circuits just click for you and you can't really put a finger on it, but you just go well there, and then there's a bit of a snowball effect. Because you go well there, you relax a bit more and go even better, and then it go even better and you relax, and maybe Barcelona is one of those circuits for Lucas Stolz.
We've got just under 11 minutes on the clock, but the teams have been told by the race director that there will be a full course yellow exercise in the last 5 minutes. So if you're thinking about a run or a time, you've got just over 5 minutes in which to do that, because after that it's going to be a slow couple of laps to the checkered flag.
Yeah, and that's as much a race control as the teams. The teams will want to know their 80 kilometres an hour is at the officials' 80k, and they can adjust it in tiny 0.0 increments of kilometres an hour, so they can hone that in. And of course, if you go over, you get a penalty, but if you go under and it's a short full course yellow, that is time lost in the race, as we see the Rutronic team take their tyres off, and are we going to see a new tyre run for the 97?
Yeah, 17 minutes to go. Apologies, looking at time of day, not time to go. Tyre swap for 96 then, and Alessio Picariello may well give way in that car as well. So there is now Charles Wirtz in number 32. He's taken it over from Hugo de Wilde. And the Sprint Cup champion, 27th in the times, trying to haul it up the order as he now makes that run up towards turn 4.
Riding on board again, and very accurate with the placement of the car on top of the apex curbs there at turn 4. And this BMW has had a nice balance all year, it seems, and straight line performance is its strength. That's how it generates its lap time. And it does seem to struggle sometimes in the slower speed corners just because of its longer wheelbase, but phenomenal ride quality over the curbs there, where we've seen McLaren seemingly struggle with coming off the curb. Not the fastest apex speed we've seen through turn 9, but now the speed will start to rise as they go into the hairpin here. And it's the Porsche in front, isn't it? The Herberth car just starting to hold us up potentially. Slight short shift as well there, maybe just trying to mitigate some wheel spin, keep out the traction control, and just look after that rear tyre ever so more on this 32 WRT BMW.
And Charles Wirtz, who perhaps when he started was regarded as the son of the team owner, has now very much blossomed into a really good GT racer in his own right. I mean, he was a single-seater champion before the GT programme anyway, but his father, Yves Wirtz, is the W of WRT. The Wirtz group owns the Wirtz racing team, WRT, and Charles Wirtz, very rapid indeed these days. More work for 96, and Joe's roll bar update is...
It's not a roll bar, this one. Oh. The mechanic on the front end, I think, was changing the splitter angle on the Porsche from what I could see there, and working high up in the wheel arch would normally be the dampers, so that would be my guess what they're adjusting there. Wheel nuts out the way, so they've obviously cooled for the tyres. Windscreen getting cleaned as well as a matter of course, and again with 60 cars you just generally get more rubbish thrown at you, so as a driver it's always important to get the best possible view of what's in front of you.
So with now 14.5 minutes of the session still to go, more and more cars cycling through pit stops, either for final adjustments or for another driver swap or a practice pit stop. There are so many things the teams can do and learn, but there's a real queue coming in for the last few minutes, it seems. The one last change of driver, and Eduardo Liberati's Mercedes, in contrast, looks like it might well be going into its box as it's turned around on the skates. In comes 33, that being the two C's, Vermeulen, Lullen, King, Verstappen.com, Aston, which, having found just about a space, then has to sort of roll back, doesn't it, in its to its pit box for fear of encroaching on the Greystone team. All of a sudden, this pit lane is getting ever so busy.
Yeah, and there's only going to be time for another couple of laps, isn't there, before that full course yellow infringement. Here we have a replay exit of 9. That's the gravel trap getting caught, and the problem is there, the gravel is going to make the cars lose grip at a very critical moment. So that gravel, you can see how it evolves, got brought on by the Boots and VDS car, then got cleared, but that will start to flow more and more. And we were talking about driver gradings, and actually Lullen getting aboard that car is one of the big losers or winners, depending on how you look at it. He is getting upgraded from silver to gold because his performance has been so good. So Tim Fulbrook at SRO in the media office there highlighting that one to me, and that will be interesting because that would change that lineup for next season to a pro lineup rather than the gold it currently is.
Not his first season of racing, because he was very dominant in Radicals last season. Okay, totally different league, and he did dominate that against club racers, amateur racers, but it's not that he's only done this. He has had a bit of car experience, albeit on a different scale, different level. But yes, as you made the point early on, you want to be graded as low as possible. The driver gradings have their pros and their cons. As you look there at number 58 McLaren, the Garage 59, 24 Corvette, cycles through another driver change. 58 is the Smalley Pratt McDonald McLaren. Adam Smalley currently drives. Door a little bit reluctant to close. The Arley brothers and Lorcan Hannafin sharing that car for Stella. It's good to have the Corvette on the grid. Very different sight, sound, feel to the Corvette these days than in previous years. 54 Porsche from Dynamique on track. We saw Michael Pedersen in the car earlier. Yot Raponge and Federico Al Rifai are the other drivers. It's Al Rifai at the wheel right now as that car hustles on. And 53rd in the times it is. The time not necessarily reflective of who's behind the wheel right now. The time is from the car, not the individual driver, and therefore it may well be that it was a Pedersen time that has done for them. Crosses the line and improves up to 49th on that lap. RFI doing a 42.4. Right now, we have got the first 19 covered by less than a second, which is not bad going. I know this is the shortest lap on the Endurance Cup calendar, 4.7 kilometres, but even so, 19 cars within a second is pretty good. And some of those margins, you know, 10,000, 16,000, 1,000th outside the top 10, 1,000th splits a McLaren and a Porsche.
Yeah, I actually think in qualifying we're going to get top 30 covered by a second, because we're seeing split strategies here in a 2-hour free practice session. I think that number will go up another 30%. Alex Legui in pit lane letting me know that 93 car has just taken new tyres. That's for Porcini, so they're trying to get their bronze graded driver as up to speed as possible, because obviously in qualifying the combined nature, that was close, wasn't it? And the Schumacher car getting out the way well, I think there was, or was it the Herberth car? And yeah, the combined nature of qualifying being super important, so it doesn't almost over matter who's the fastest. That collective nature means sometimes you want to give the most effort to your weakest link in the chain.
As Lukas Stoltz then, currently in the car that is quickest, courtesy of Fabian Schiller's lap, presses on. The car bearing allegiance to Steve Yann's company, one of the sponsors, but a regular Get Speed racer himself. So in terms of the order, Stoltz, Marciello, Picariello, Alex Buncombe up to 4th. That's gone past us, but for Bob Neville's RJN team, Alex Buncombe, 3rd generation racer, the Buncombe family, going back a long, long way, and he is now 4th fastest in the McLaren. Good effort that by former Blancpain Endurance Series champion from the Nissan days, Alex Buncombe, who then went off to drive for Bentley. Number 12 Ferrari in the meantime here. This is now Fabrizio Crestani at the wheel of the car, 36th in the times with 9 minutes on the clock now.
Yeah, 6th in the silver class, and again, just with four classes, it's important to look at the overall, of course, but then you also do need to focus in on your interclass rivalry as well, as we see 2 different classes. The gold-rated Buncombe driver you were just talking about, and just kicked up in his face. And again, Al and I have been on track since 2009 in European GT4, and again, just showing the ladder that SOO have created for drivers. We're both in GT4 and then have made our careers all the way through the ladder up to this international spec GT3 class.
Brother Chris, of course, a Le Mans class winner. Doesn't do too much racing these days, but Alex himself very busy in historics as well as modern GT cars. And Father Jonathan was a good touring car racer and Super Saloon racer, Thunder Saloon champion, and also grandfather John, very successful racer in his time as well.
Al Buncombe's on a lap here. He might get himself right at the sharp end. 4th at the moment. He's done 2 green sectors and phenomenally quick, so that could be something to displace that Get Speed car.
So we'll see what it does come the end of the lap, but right now the team's factoring in those 5 minutes for the full course yellow exercise at the end, so it may well turn out that this is for some of the last go. And number 19 Lamborghini getting all sideways there as the car pushes on. That is Isaac Tutumo Lopez, the Spanish driver, drafted in at the last moment and having a big snap of oversteer, but he was able to correct that and get past the number 93 Ziggo Sport Tempesta Ferrari. And here's the replay. Was he caught out by the traffic? Was he caught out by a leaden right foot? Let's have a look.
Yeah, probably a bit of both. And McLaren was holding the part of the track he wanted to release the car into, but a big snap of oversteer, and the McLaren doing just about a good enough job of keeping out of the way. It just looks like a full practice pit stop, doesn't it, for the Manfield to Winwood racing team, just ahead of this full course yellow procedure that's going to happen in roughly 1 minute and 37 seconds.
So the old tyres put away, the car drops down and it blasts away. The car was brought in by Lucas Au, who I suspect will stay behind the wheel as Benjamin Ricci in the Santaloc Audi continues up towards the end of the session. This car with a good first sector, but not so good in the second. Improvement last time through for Jaden Kelly behind the wheel of 77. McLaren, the Greystone car. Benjamin Ricci is about to get stuck in traffic, but traffic is going to be a problem, isn't it, for the rest of the weekend? Whether it's in qualifying, you're going to have to be on your toes to find a gap, and certainly in the race, it's going to be very, very busy. 60 cars on track.
Yeah, and it's how you approach it as a driver. Is it a problem, or can you use it to your strength? Can you clear that traffic quicker and more efficient than your rivals and use that to put someone between you potentially? And that's where we see contact a lot of the time with those sort of half-baked lunges where someone will just send it down the inside, hoping the traffic's seen them, but really the traffic is allowed to exist.
A half-baked lunge.
It's early morning, David.
Is that a new pastry that we're not aware of?
It could have been worse, let me put it that way.
Okay. They also sound like a band that you might find sort of in the middle of the night on Six Music, the half-baked lunges. Right, up towards the checkered flag we will go with 5 minutes and change on the clock. 911 Porsche, that's the Preining Malikin Leeds car, the Pure Racing stable, and 992 BMW, James Callet at the wheel, crawling all over the back. James Callet, somebody else that I think has stood out this season. First year in GT World Challenge Europe. Okay, he's had a good car underneath him, but he's driven it really well. And James Callet coming from the silver ranks, winner at Paul Ricard, but quick all season.
Yeah, and busy driver coach as well. I see him a lot of the UK circuits, working with lots of clients, and that's kind of the go-to secondary income for these drivers. And if you're lucky enough to get paid to drive around in circles, then you can get paid to tell people how to drive around in circles.
Full course yellow is called as instructed. This is not because of an incident. This is a test from race control to make sure that marshals and the other officials that of course work on World Challenge once a season when it comes to Barcelona, they are fulfilling the requirements of the flags and the boards on instruction, that the teams have all the mechanisms working so that the in-car marshalling display tells the drivers when the yellow flags are out, that the countdown is being done correctly with a 20-second warning and then a count from 10 from Niels Wittich, the race director, the teams relaying that information to the drivers, that the GPS system's all working, because it is the speed under full course yellow that is monitored. It's not the gap to the car ahead, but it is the speed that is being monitored. So all of those processes are just being checked. Some cars not out there, you don't have to be, but there is this provision for the full course yellow procedure test, and that will take us up to the checkered flag. Worth doing though, certainly.
Yeah, definitely so, just to make sure everything is A-OK. The Rover team look on. Jesse Krohn on the left, Farfus in the middle, and then Marcello on the far right. You can see he's still got his moulded earpieces in, and those moulded earpieces so crucial so you can hear the team clearly. A lot of background noise. Some of these earpieces now with active noise cancelling as well, so sometimes it can be too quiet in the car. You're kind of sat in a silent box hurtling around at 265 kilometres an hour.
Fans watch on, smartphones at the ready as photos and videos are taken. The cars, of course, crawl round under this delta speed that the full course yellow dictates. Some electing to come and pit, and the full course yellow procedure will round out effectively this free practice period. It doesn't necessarily last for the full 5 minutes, it can do, but it's within the last 5 minutes that this test has been agreed. The Circuit de Catalunya, which has invested a huge amount of late in things like big screens and the electronic scoreboards. That is quite a thing, isn't it? Looking down the pit straight and with the race footage as well as really clear to see the order. It's very, very useful indeed. A lot of effort has been put in here and a lot of building work still going on. The new bridge gantry across the road down to turn 10. Grandstand there as well on the outside of turn 10, you can see there's another building being constructed on the outside of turn 14. And that huge grandstand in which we are based, overlooking the pit straight.
And actually, the Pirelli technician there getting direct feedback from Muller and Niederhaus. So interesting to see that. It's a spec tyre across all 10 manufacturers. It's the same. It was a new tyre to start the season, very well received from all the teams, this DHG spec Pirelli. And yeah, just the feedback from the drivers, just on the tyre, what they're seeing, any issues, and that will get fed back directly to Pirelli, who are constantly evolving this tyre, not just for performance, but for durability as well, to let these drivers push on hard for all 65 minutes. Very little tyre management needed as a driver in GT3, just how it should be in any form of motorsport.
One nice thing we've seen this year particularly, and it's partly the new tyre and it's partly perhaps down to the ethos of the new race director, but is that we've had full course yellows straight back to green without then that elongation of a period with the safety car to get the tyre back up to temperature. We can just have it switched on quicker and we can go racing. A bit like now, the green flag is back out and showing for the last minute of the session, and in race situations, again, you know, the tyre is able to be turned on sooner, and therefore it's helped the racing, I think.
Yeah, definitely. That was cool. You said green and it went back to green. It's an honour to be sat next to someone that dictates what's going on in front of us. And the car's now going through the process like they would in the race. The tyres probably have dropped 20% or so tyre and pressure, so weaving left to right, and this will happen in the race, so you've got to try and push on as hard as you can. But you can see if you push on too hard, like the 50 car did just there, huge slide, and that hurts the tyre. And if you do that too much at the start, it will then hurt you towards the end of the stint, so you have to look after it. And actually the 50 car deciding to back out of it, and Arthur Leclerc now setting up with time for one more push.
And the clock will have 10 seconds on it as he breaks the beam. Barcelona, yet another circuit where your start line and finish line are in different places. The timing line, there it is, always has to be outside the timekeeper's window for the purposes of any dead heats and the timing being there. The start line is a rather more complicated location because it's partly based on the speed of the car's arrival into turn 1. It's partly based on the length of the straight and how many cars you can get onto the grid for a standing start. So here it's sort of midway down that long pit straight. Checker flag is out, and as you saw in front of the camera, thumbs up from certain quarters. Yeah. Mercedes AMG getting themselves together, including number 6, the German driver Tom Calander.
And next year's calendar is already released, isn't it, for GT World Challenge? So you can check that out. And if you're able to come to any of the circuits, all of them are phenomenal. But the CrowdStrike 24 Hours of Spa is a real standout. You can make a week's holiday of it camping in the Belgian forest.
Can I suggest 10 days? Because the week before was British GT. There's some good beer in Belgium. I may have mentioned this in the past. So it's definitely a GT festival, the 2 weeks back to back. Right, to the pit lane we ought to go. I think Luca Stolz now is with Alex, and that car fastest at the end of the session.
A very nice, strong session. It feels like redemption for last year. With 60 cars on the grid, just how tricky is it to find a good lap out there?
Yeah, it's really difficult. It's a lot of cars and a lot of marbles on track, so it's also difficult to overtake. But yeah, good session for us. Jules put out a mega lap and he won so far. So yeah, good session. But yeah, it's really difficult. There's a lot of tire deck and it's difficult to drive. I think it's the same for everybody. But yeah, so far so good.
How quickly do you feel that drop off?
For us, it's only one lap, one peak lap, and then quite a drop.
How close do you feel like you're to quali pace?
Well, we don't know. I just checked the results, and I think last year in sprint it was like 39.4, so we are still 1 second off, at least 1 second off. Yeah, we'll see tomorrow.
Thanks, Luca.
Luca Stolz then, whose car is fastest. It was Fabian Schiller who did the time in that car, and Jules Gounon did a handful of laps at the very start. So the teams now bring the cars back to the pit lane. They have a little bit of time before a further hour of running today, pre-qualifying. So that used to be 90 minutes. It's gone from 90 to just an hour, but you've got 2 hours now for free practice. So we'll see the cars at just after 2:30 local time. So Stoltz, Gounod, Schiller top the times from Farfus, Krohn and Marcello, Niederhauser, Picariello and Muller third. Fourth is where you have the best of the golds, Tommy Foster, Reece Barr and Alex Buncombe, who did the time. The best of the bronzes, Patrick Cole, Gabriel Rindon and Ricardo Falla, despite their accident. Best of the silvers, Aurelien Panis, Loris Cabiru and Cesar Gazot. So an interesting session for sure. Whether it's given us a read on the rest of the weekend is debatable, but pre-qualifying I think will get us rather closer to that point. But Mercedes-AMG, 5 times the victorious brand here, starting the weekend well with the top time and the get-speed car of Luca Stoltz, Jules Gounod, Fabian Schiller that was leading at Monza, don't forget, until it had that loose wheel. Still overdue a win, and it may well come tomorrow. We will see. We've got a whole host of other activity to come from Barcelona this weekend. Not only GT World Challenge Europe powered by AWS Endurance Cup, but also the final rounds of the GT4 European Series, GT2 European Series as well. And the GT2 cars race at 1:05 local time. There's also Lamborghini Super Trofeo having its penultimate weekend of the season. There you can see the other half of the times. The order rounded out by the Qatari Motorsport Federation Audi. So the times recorded, and the drivers and the teams now get themselves set for the pre-qualifying session to come later on in the day. Fabian Schiller then, the driver fastest at the end of that session, 1:40.793, the only driver in fact to get into the 1:40s, with the Mercedes-AMG ahead of BMW, Porsche, McLaren and Ferrari. 5 different manufacturers therefore within the top 5, and that perhaps opens us up for a really competitive weekend. Right, we'll see you for pre-qualifying at just after 2:30. For now, from Alex Legui in the pits, Joe Osborne and David Addison, it's goodbye.